Chapter 26. Dragneel swallowed subconsciously when he saw the huge crowds of people in front of him. Because he was proficient in the space magic teleportation, Webnovel was asked by Lahar to come to the kingdom of Fiori to evacuate the people. Dragneel will use magic to teleport all the people in the capital of the kingdom of Fiori. As for whether Dragneel can teleport all these people away and whether he will teleport Guyun away together, there is no need to worry at all. At that time, the magic crystal with magic elf power in Dragneel's body will replace the magic power in Dragneel's body to release magic, and the magic effect dominated by magic elf power will be greatly enhanced. However, because the Magic Council has not yet studied and controlled the magic elf power deeply, Dragneel, as a carrier, will suffer serious injuries at that time, and even if it is a little serious, it may be directly disabled. Honestly, if he hadn't known that Lahar was very concerned about what happened in Magnolia, Dragneel might not have done this. After all, magic elf power is too dangerous, and serious consequences can occur if you are not careful. Even though the Magic Council has a deeper understanding of the research and application of magic elf power in recent years and has been able to roughly apply it to magic, it is still too dangerous to let the wizard borrow the magic elf power directly. The wizard's body can hardly withstand the extremely high quality of magic elf power, which is called the power of God. Originally, the Magic Council was going to study it for a few more years to see if it could achieve the goal of wizards using magic elf power to use magic in a few years. Of course, from the original book, the Magic Council was wiped out by Tartarosa's attack, which shows that the goal of letting wizards use magic with magic elf power is a distant goal. It's really troublesome. But since Lahar has asked me to do that, I'll give it a try. After taking a deep breath, Dragneel slapped the hand containing the magic spirit power directly on the ground of the podium, smashing it, and activated the space magic teleportation. Boom! The ground was shaking wildly, and a super large magic circle emerged, directly covering the entire central square in the center of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori. You know, the central square of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori can accommodate millions of people, and the area is very large. I didn't expect Dragneel to be able to directly create such a huge magic circle. Guyun, who had been watching the show, finally changed his expression. If Dragneel, who was in Guyun's sight, was very stable before and was very harmonious with the surrounding environment, he suddenly became extremely unstable at this moment. The magic power in Dragneel's body boiled in an instant, no, it evaporated in an instant, and then a very high-quality magic power was forcibly filled into Dragneel's body. Dragneel, who was harmless like a sheep in Guyun's eyes, turned into a wolf cub with milk teeth at this moment. Well, although there is still no threat at all, at least it has changed from a herbivore to a carnivore. Although he didn't know what the effect of this magic circle was, Guyun never let others decide his future, so Guyun just waved his hand slightly, ready to directly interrupt the magic that destroyed Dragneel. With Guyun's action, the magic circle on the ground composed of magic spirit power shook violently, but what surprised Guyun happened. The magic circle on the ground did not collapse and become invalid because of Guyun's action, but it was still running. Although this had nothing to do with Guyun's power, it should be known that there are very few magic circles in this world that can withstand Guyun's interference. No, it's not because the magic circle is too stable. Guyun's attention was immediately attracted by the magic circle on the ground, and he murmured to himself a little seriously, it's because the magic power that constitutes the magic circle itself is too stable, and more importantly, the quality of this magic power exceeds me. And it has the two supreme attributes of time and space. This special attribute, this extremely high quality, is this magic elf power. You should know that the magic power in Guyun's body has been constantly compressed, refined, and simplified, and during the time when Guyun froze himself, Guyun's body was still constantly absorbing and refining magic power. After 400 years, the quality of the magic power in Guyun's body has become amazingly terrifying. It can be said that the current Guyun can beat himself who cut off the continent with a sword 400 years ago. But even so, the quality of the magic power in Guyun's body is still not as good as the magic power that constitutes the magic circle. What else can it be except the magic elf power that is blown to the sky in the fairy tale world? Then in the next moment, the super large magic circle that enveloped the entire central square was activated, accompanied by a huge space wave, and the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori suddenly became silent. The central square that was originally crowded with people suddenly became empty, leaving only Guyun and Dragneel lying on the podium, and the army disguised as normal people before. Oh! Looking at the Magic Council army that surrounded him not far away, Guyun chuckled. You must have used the magic spirit power just now. It seems that your magic council is quite courageous. You directly pulled most of your magic council's troops here. Looking at Dragneel lying on the podium and panting, Guyun said with a smile, then I wonder if you are prepared to lose most of your troops. Chapter 27. You are the heinous person, Lahar said, right? The legendary dragon slayer. After hearing Guyun's words, Dragneel touched the corner of his mouth with faint bloodstains and smiled. The forced use of magic spirit power just now caused Dorabart to suffer serious injuries. If he doesn't slow down and recover a little, he can't use the magic spirit power again immediately, even at the risk of completely collapsing his body. Unlike Lahar, who has been blinded by hatred, although Dragneel came here to execute the order to capture Guyun, the legendary dragon slayer, the legend about the dragon slayer is too horrifying. Even if we ignore the authenticity of historical data for the time being, the historical data about Guyun, the dragon slayer, is exaggerated, but Guyun's record of killing 1,000 wizards in one blow in Megonoria can't be exaggerated. Since Guyun can kill 1,000 wizards in one strike, the strength of 1,000 wizards is far from the limit of Guyun's strength. It may be 1,001, but it may also be 10,000 or even 100,000. Dorabart cannot ignore these things. After all, as the commander of this operation, Dragneel needs to be responsible for the lives of his subordinates. At least, if there is a situation that cannot be defeated, a way out must be left. This is the vast majority of the power of the Magic Council, and it must not be lost here. Therefore, after a few heavy breaths, Dragneel did not rush to let the surrounding Magic Council troops take action, but prepared to talk to Guyun for a few words to recover. Dragon Slayer is just a title given to me by others. Personally, I don't really want to acknowledge this title. Ignoring the Magic Council army that had formed a magic circle around him, Guyun smiled and said, after all, compared to the word kill, which describes a weak person killing a strong person in adversity, I prefer to use the word slaughter to describe it. The so-called dragons are as weak as ants to me. Although I can't say that I can kill a bunch of them with just a step, I can still kill dragons as easily as taking something out of a bag. So compared to the word kill, I prefer the title of Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer. After hearing what Guyun said, Dragneel suddenly fell silent and looked at Guyun. Yun's eyes suddenly became serious, and he said seriously, it's really amazing. With such powerful magic, he has brought a magical heyday to mankind. You are worthy of being a dragon slayer, no, a dragon slayer. But, with such strength, why do you become what you are now, an executioner who kills people at will? Why don't you want to be a hero? Become a hero who brings unprecedented glory to mankind. Guyun felt a little funny looking at Dragneel, who was talking nonsense to him. Do the guys from the Fairy Tale Guild have the habit of talking nonsense? One by one, they want to say a few words of truth before the battle, but Dragneel's talking nonsense skills are too low. Guyun not only has no fluctuations in his heart, but even Guyun wants to laugh. Compared with Mavis's strongest talking nonsense, Dragneel's talking nonsense is far worse. Okay, no need to talk about these nonsense. Everyone has a completely different point of view on killing or not killing, casual or not. After a slight yawn, Guyun said lightly, and my point of view is different from yours. The most important thing is, even if I really listen to your sudden awakening and want to become a hero who is beneficial to mankind, what? You just take these guys away honestly. Don't always say something that makes people feel a little stupid. Now the civilians around have been teleported away by you using space magic. You don't need to have any concerns at all. Come on, let me see, how many dragons can your magic council match? 1 or 2, or even less than 1. After hearing that Guyun didn't want to continue chatting, Dragneel took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. He looked at the Crescent Knights and the Forced Supervision Force, who had already set up their formation, and said loudly, then let's speak with strength. All members of the Crescent Knights, form a formation. All members of the Forced Supervision Force assist, and share magic power. Boom! The marble floor of the central square of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori began to crack one after another because it could not withstand the huge pressure. A super-large light column with a radius of several thousand meters, far exceeding that of Megonolia, rushed straight into the sky. In an instant, with this huge movement, the eyes of the world began to pay attention to the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori. Similarly, with the power of the Magic Council army, the Magic Council law enforcer Lahar could no longer hide from other councillors that he had privately instigated the army to attack Guyun, the unfathomable dragon slayer. All the councillors who were drinking tea, enjoying food, or planting flowers rushed to the door of the office of the Speaker Gulen at the Magic Council headquarters as quickly as possible, and then found the sleepy Speaker Gulen and Lahar standing next to him. Chairman Gulen. You directly. Lahar. What's wrong with Chairman Gulen? Lahar, you should know what happened. The right to dispatch the army on the parliament side has always been in your hands. Why didn't Chairman Gulen choose to take action against the Dragon Slayer without going through the meeting? Although I agree with this behavior. Yes, I agree, but Chairman Gulen shouldn't directly bypass us and directly intervene in the major events of the Magic Council. Otherwise, what's the point of this parliament having us as members? Chapter 28. Most of the councillors were not particularly dissatisfied with the Magic Council's action against Guyun, the Dragon Slayer. If it weren't for the last meeting where Speaker Gulen had decided to wait and see, the Magic Council might have taken action long ago. After all, although Guyun killed 1,000 wizards in one go, all the councillors felt that killing 1,000 wizards in one go was Guyun's limit. Even if he was stronger, he wouldn't be much stronger. There was no need to be timid because of Guyun's matter. The reason why these councillors reacted so strongly now was entirely because Speaker Gulen bypassed them and directly controlled the Magic Council without going through the meeting. Although Gulen was the speaker and had the highest status in the Magic Council, this was not a reason for Speaker Gulen to bypass them and directly control the Magic Council. The Magic Council was not a one-man show, and other councillors were even less likely to watch the Magic Council become the one-man show of the incumbent speaker, because it was related to their own vital interests. Only those who had a say in the Magic Council would curry favor with and bribe themselves because of their status as Magic Council members. Therefore, even the most inactive members of the parliament would be very concerned about the speaker's decision to do something big without holding a meeting. I can understand the feelings of the members. Looking at the members who were quarreling in front of him, Lahar was much calmer and said seriously, "It's just that there is a special reason for this situation this time. It is not convenient to explain the specific reason to the members of the parliament at present, but after this matter is over, I will explain it to the members of the parliament in person. As for the next thing, please follow me to the meeting room. Maybe after some force majeure, the Magic Council will use the magic elf power to bombard the target." All the members looked at Lahar and Speaker Gulen, who was sleeping on the seat next to him, with surprise. Using the magic elf power is not a small matter. You must know that in the history of the Magic Council, the number of times the magic elf power has been used is few and far between, and each time it must be approved by more than half of the members before it can be used. The background forces behind each councillor are different, and there will be considerable conflicts in interests, so that the Magic Council can correctly use the magic spirit power. Even 7 years ago, the Magic Council collapsed because it was used by Jalal. If the fact that Speaker Gulen secretly bypassed us to mobilize the army can be regarded as a trivial matter, and we can listen to your explanation after the matter is over, Lahar, then the use of magic spirit power is not a trivial matter. Well, if you don't give a reason, I will definitely not agree to use the magic spirit power. That's right, Lahar, wake up Speaker Gulen quickly. We must hear the reason for preparing to use the magic spirit power. You know, the magic spirit power can easily destroy cities and countries. Once we really use the power of magic spirits, other countries will definitely ask our Magic Council to give an explanation. If there is no legitimate reason, then it will be really troublesome. Yes, Speaker Gulen. Stop pretending to sleep here. Hurry up and give me every explanation, otherwise I will use the power of impeachment. After a while of silence, the members of the Magic Council suddenly became excited, and regardless of whether Speaker Gulen was really sleeping next to them, they started shouting in the direction of Speaker Gulen. But soon these members found that the situation seemed to be more complicated than they imagined. No matter how they shouted at Speaker Gulen, who was lying on the table, Speaker Gulen did not respond at all. Even if he really fell asleep, he couldn't sleep so soundly. He should have thought that he was awakened by the intrusion of others. Okay, all the senators, please stop arguing. I will temporarily take over the affairs of Speaker Gulen before Speaker Gulen wakes up. Next, let's take a look at the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori. Lahar looked at the members of the Magic Council and said with a smile, "The situation in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori will affect our Magic Council's decision on whether to use the magic spirit power. As for whether innocent people will be hurt, please rest assured, all the irrelevant people in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori have been evacuated by Dragneel's space magic teleportation. In addition to the need to compensate for the destroyed city, we don't need to worry about other things." While speaking, Lahar took out a crystal ball, and the picture of the capital of the kingdom of Fiori appeared in the crystal ball. Although they knew that the movements of the Magic Council army during this period were a bit too tough, because Lahar could conceal it, the senators present actually didn't know what Lahar was going to do this time. Looking at the councillors whose attention was drawn to him, Lahar continued to say with a smile, "This is the topic discussed in the last meeting, the Dragon Slayer. Now our Magic Council's army has completely confronted this Dragon Slayer. If our army loses, then Doranbolt will use the space magic teleport to take everyone away, but at this time, simply choosing to escape will not solve any problems. At that time, we may be found by this extremely powerful Dragon Slayer. So, when it comes to whether to use the power of magic spirits, I still hope that all the councillors will think carefully about it." As Lahar's voice fell, the councillors who were a little noisy suddenly became quiet. No one would be stupid, and everyone knew the seriousness of the problem. If the Dragon Slayer really showed a powerful force far beyond the limit, and even the Magic Council's army could not beat it in a head-on battle, these councillors who had offended the Dragon Slayer would definitely be unable to sleep or eat. Even if they were not the ones who made this decision. Chapter 29. The first reason why the Magic Council rarely uses magic spirit power is that the destructive power of magic spirit power is too great, so the Magic Council needs to think carefully every time it uses it. However, the real main reason is that there is no existence that can directly threaten the Magic Council. If there is really any dangerous and terrible existence that threatens the Magic Council, then the Magic Council will definitely use its ultimate weapon, magic spirit power, without hesitation. Meetings are just symbolic. This is almost the case now. 100% of the Magic Council's troops have been transferred to the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori to hunt down or even kill the Dragon Slayer who killed 1,000 wizards of the Magic Council's army some time ago. The strength of the Dragon Slayer and some historical data legends have more or less been understood by the councillors present in this month. Even if you don't believe the exaggerated descriptions of Guyun's image and strength in historical data, what happened in Magnolia has already given everyone a rough understanding of Guyun's strength. No matter what, Guyun, the Dragon Slayer, is at the top level in the world, whether it is the instantaneous defeat of Blue Pegasus's Holy 10 reserves or the instant killing of the Magic Council's 1,000 wizards. Therefore, after knowing that the Magic Council was fighting with Guyun, the Dragon Slayer, all the council members present focused their attention on the picture in the crystal ball. Although they were very dissatisfied and did not believe that Guyun could defeat the tens of thousands of troops of the Magic Council, if even the tens of thousands of troops of the Magic Council could not defeat Guyun, the Dragon Slayer, then in the case of having completely offended Guyun, the Dragon Slayer, they could only choose to use the Magic Council's trump card magic spirit power. In the central square of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, Merucleus, the Magic Council's army was still confronting Guyun who was surrounded in the central area. The magic power of tens of thousands of wizards, who were not too weak, gathered together at this moment, and the extremely huge magic light column even made the whole city begin to tremble slowly. The huge amount of magic power merged by tens of thousands of people is enough to achieve the degree of quantitative change leading to qualitative change. Yes, that's it. Standing on the podium in the central square as the guide of the magic circle, Doranbolt commanded with a serious face, "Now complete the part of the magic power that you should do according to the content of the performance, complete the super large magic, purgatory shattering." Under Doranbolt's command, an extremely huge dark golden magic circle appeared under Guyun's feet. Purgatory shattering, similar to the status of magic guide spirit power, is composed of the attribute magic power of the four basic elements of the world, fire, earth, water, and wind. It can produce extremely huge dark fluctuations. Just a single person can use purgatory shattering to destroy half of the city with one blow. Now that tens of thousands of people's magic power are used together to use purgatory shattering, the movement caused can be imagined. Perhaps, the only magic that can surpass the power of purgatory shattering performed by tens of thousands of people is the ultimate strategic weapon of Magic Council, magic guide spirit power. As the dark gold magic circle symbolizing the breaking of the absolute destruction magic purgatory was formed, the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, Merucleus, began to tremble even more violently, as if it could collapse at any time. Oh! Guyun looked at the dark gold magic circle that appeared under his feet and asked with a little curiosity, "The power of the magic of purgatory shattering is indeed good, but it seems that you have also surrounded yourself. Are you so determined that you are willing to sacrifice tens of thousands of troops to kill me?" "Of course not." After hearing Guyun's words, Doranbolt smiled and said, "This is an improved purgatory shattering. This huge magic circle is just to share everyone's magic power and mobilize it together. The magic circle that truly represents absolute destruction is this. As Dragneel's voice fell, in addition to the super huge dark gold magic circle under Gu Yun's feet, a bright gold magic circle appeared on the basis of the dark gold magic circle. Compared with the scale of the dark gold magic circle, the range of the bright gold magic circle is relatively small, with a radius of only about 50 meters, which only wrapped Gu Yun in it. As for the surrounding Magic Council's army, it has no effect at all. Boom! The capital, which was only slightly shaking, began to shake violently the moment the bright golden magic circle appeared. It was like an earthquake. But at this moment, in the underground of the Palace of the Lantern Palace in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, Merucleus, a huge door with a sun logo and hundreds of meters high was slowly pushed open in the shaking, and a girl with beautiful blonde hair and delicate face slowly walked out of the huge door. The girl's cheeks were full of tears and despair, and she was very embarrassed. Even her right arm was empty. If Gu Yun was here at this time, he would be able to recognize that this girl with tears and despair on her face and even a broken arm was the heroine Lucy Heartfilia in the original work, or Lucy Heartfilia from the future. Natsu, Levy, and everyone in the guild, what should I do now? Lucy looked at everything around her with a confused face and muttered to herself. At this time, Lucy, or future Lucy, did not realize that she had passed through the eclipse portal and arrived in the past, but was immersed in pain, sadness, and memories. Chapter 30. Facing the invasion of 10,000 dragons, the world where Lucy is in the future has no power to resist at all, whether it is Fairy Tale, Fiori Kingdom, or Magic Council, none of them have any power to resist. The world where Lucy is in the future has been ruled by the dragons again, and everything seems to have returned to the era of 400 years ago. Humans are once again ruled by the dragons, and this time there is no terrifying dragon slayer in history. Even though humans are generally much stronger than 400 years ago, they are not powerless to resist the dragons of the Dragon Clan. The Magic Council also has the powerful magic spirit power, and the 12 holy shields of the Albarez Empire are all very powerful. However, compared with the dragons that number up to 10,000, they are too small. Even the black dragon Acknowledge, known as the Wings of the End, was just following Gu Yun and finally transformed into a dragon. And all the truly powerful beings in the Dragon Clan had been killed by Gu Yun because they had troubled Gu Yun. In addition, Acknowledge was not fighting against Gu Yun alone, so he was able to destroy the Dragon Clan. But this time it was different. Tens of thousands of dragons appeared directly to teach Acknowledge how to be a human, not a dragon, and all kinds of hammers. If one can't beat it, okay. Then two will come together. If two can't beat it together, that's fine. 10 of them will surround it and kill it. In this way, the strongest boss in the fairy tale world was also knocked down by the Dragon Clan's Dragon Sea tactics. If there is only one existence that has the opportunity to defeat 10,000 dragons, it is the last trump card of fairy tale, Luminous Starlight. Lumen.Starlight, also known as Photon.Reconstruction, is collectively called the Fairy's Heart. It is the secret magic of the Fairy Tale Guild and an absolutely forbidden magic that can possess infinite power and infinite magic. Just the word infinite can tell how powerful and terrifying this absolutely forbidden magic is. If the lowest power magic elf power is the sum of the magic power in all the wizards on the continent, then once the Fairy's Heart is activated, the highest power magic elf power can be used infinitely, which is terrifying to the extreme. This is the only way for humans to resist the 10,000 dragons or even annihilate them in the face of the invasion of 10,000 dragons. It's just a pity that because it was the great magician who was fighting, all the fairy tale members were in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, and they encountered the 10,000 dragons that appeared from the Eclipse Gate at the first time, and were finally completely annihilated. Makarov Driar, the third-generation president of the Fairy Tale Guild who was the only one who knew how to use the Fairy's Heart, died directly in the first full-scale battle between humans and dragons after 400 years. There were only 2 people who survived the Fairy Tale Guild, 2 people who had no idea about the Fairy Tale Guild's biggest secret, the Fairy's Heart, Levy and Lucy. Lucy missed Natsu and the others so much that she unknowingly came to the Eclipse Gate where Wanlong appeared, and finally inexplicably opened the Eclipse Gate and came to the era where Gu Yun is now. No, why is the ground shaking so much, and the light has suddenly become dim? As the ground shook more and more, future Lucy, who had been in sadness and memories, also came back to her senses at this time, and murmured in surprise, I really want to remember this place, here. Isn't this, Isn't this the underground where the Eclipse Gate was originally stored in the Huideng Palace in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori? How did I suddenly come here? But, hasn't the Kingdom of Fiori been destroyed long ago? This underground has also been destroyed a long time ago, it can't exist. No, I must have not figured out something. Future Lucy was very surprised that the environment around her changed in a trance, and more importantly, the surroundings suddenly became a scene that had been destroyed and no longer existed, which had to surprise future Lucy. However, as the underground vibration became stronger and stronger, future Lucy also realized that this place was very dangerous, and temporarily put aside the doubts in her heart, and hurriedly ran up to the ground along the route she remembered before. Finally, she ran to the palace of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, the Lantern Palace, and was horrified by the light column that shot straight into the sky not far away. Not only was she horrified by the terrible magic power, but she was even more horrified that the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, Milo Alex, which had long been destroyed by the roar of thousands of dragons, still existed. The only thing that surprised future Lucy was that there was no one in the entire Lantern Palace, and the street not far away was also empty. This made future Lucy a little doubtful whether she had really returned to the past. No matter what, although it seems very dangerous over there, I must know the answer. Biting her teeth, future Lucy looked at the huge light column in the distance that exuded a terrible sense of oppression and muttered to herself with a firm face. This is the last chance. Looking at Guyun wrapped in the bright golden magic circle, Doranbolt was slightly relieved, as if everything was settled, and smiled easily. Admit your crime and accept the trial of our magic council, then your life will not be in danger. Think about it carefully, how about it? No need to say these meaningless nonsense, come on, let me see your strength. After hearing Doranbolt's persuasion, Guyun said with a smile, I am suddenly interested in the magic elves of your magic council. Give me all the information about the magic elves, and I will let you go. How about it? I have always been very trustworthy. For example, the guy from Blue Pegasus gave me the ancient book magic, so I let them go. Think about it carefully. I said I would let you go, and I will definitely let you go as long as I am satisfied. It seems that you are stubborn. Doranbolt's face turned cold, and he said lightly, activate. Purgatory shattered. Chapter 31. The bright golden magic circle under Guyun's feet is blooming with unprecedented light. However, don't just look at the bright golden light and conclude that this is some kind of light attribute magic. Although it looks extremely bright, Guyun can feel the deep dark breath from it. Just like the name and the introduction just now, Purgatory Shattering is a magic composed of the 4 basic elements of magic, which can produce huge dark fluctuations. In the fairy tale world, all magic is born from darkness, also known as miracles. The brighter the light at this time, the more powerful the power of Purgatory Shattering will be, which is almost similar to the situation in martial arts novels where the positive pole produces the negative pole. The extreme of darkness is light, and the extreme of light is also darkness. It's really powerful, let's not talk about whether it can affect me. Guyun looked at the magic circle under his feet that was temporarily emitting extreme light, and chuckled, based on the pure destructive power, this magic is unqualified and does not have enough deterrence. No matter how powerful the magic you release is, as long as the magic does not contain spatial attributes, or simply the attack strength that directly shatters the space, it is impossible to have even the slightest impact on me. As he spoke, Guyun just drew a line in the air at the direction under his feet, just like when he dealt with the attack of Yvonne, a member of the Blue Pegasus Tri-Men's team in Magnolia, and left it alone. Guyun directly cut a small hole leading to the other dimension at the middle of the contact between his feet and the magic circle. The other dimension is infinite. As long as any attack does not have the attribute of space or is strong enough to shatter the space, Guyun's defense is invincible. No attack can pass Guyun's defense and cause any impact on Guyun. If there is a wizard who is proficient in space magic at this time, it can be seen that the space under Guyun's feet is incompatible with other spaces, just like a small hole in a plastic bag. No. Coincidentally, Doranbolt is proficient in space magic. The space under this guy's feet is wrong. I can't sense the space coordinates under this guy's feet. Doranbolt's originally relaxed expression suddenly became serious again. He stared at the ground where Guyun was standing in the light and said, it's like, there is one more or one less space in the normal space. Unfortunately, although Doranbolt is proficient in space magic, it is only a branch of space magic, teleportation. Therefore, even if Doranbolt noticed that something was wrong, he still couldn't think of any solution. In fact, it was because Doranbolt was a half-baked space wizard that Guyun was so indifferent. There are perverted magics in the fairy tale world, but these magics seem to be disassembled into parts one by one and used separately by wizards. For example, Doranbolt, who is now staring at the ground under Guyun's feet with horror, uses space magic that only has the branch function of teleportation. He doesn't use any other space magic such as Space Blade and Space Collapse. Otherwise, Guyun would have to be more or less troubled when facing this super-large purgatory shatter. Doranbolt didn't have much time to think. The purgatory shatter that gathered the magic power of tens of thousands of wizards completely erupted. In this unprecedented extreme light, everyone saw the dark light born in the light. This dark light was as dark and deep as a black hole, as if it traced back to the origin of magic, darkness. Darkness was born in the extreme of light, and finally became the extreme of darkness. As a touch of darkness emerged in the golden light, the surrounding golden light was quickly swallowed up by this touch of darkness, and finally in the eyes of everyone, Guyun was swallowed up by the extreme darkness. There was not even a trace of roar, but it made people feel unprecedented fear from the bottom of their hearts. Haha, it seems that this so-called Dragon Slayer is not as scary as imagined. That's right, I just saw him so relaxed and thought he had some way to deal with the forbidden magic purgatory shattering performed by tens of thousands of people. Now I think he was completely scared by that scale of magic. Even if this guy is really the Dragon Slayer mentioned in history, he is an antique from 400 years ago. Although this guy is indeed very powerful and invincible 400 years ago, being invincible 400 years ago does not mean that he is invincible today 400 years later. In this case, since this guy was able to defeat the legendary Dragon Clan 400 years ago, then the so-called Dragon Clan may be just like that now, and there is nothing to be afraid of. Okay, Lahar, since this Dragon Slayer has been solved, you can also explain to me what is going on now. Speaker Gulen should not have simply fallen asleep. What is going on? The council members who have been keeping a close eye on Guyun's situation in the Magic Council saw Gu after Yun was completely swallowed by the darkness, they all breathed a sigh of relief. To vent their anger, everyone began to wantonly mock Guyun, who had made them nervous before, regardless of whether Guyun, who was far away in the sky, could hear their mockery. They also began to ask Lahar, after all, Speaker Gulen, who was obviously abnormal, was still lying there not far away. However, Lahar did not pay attention to the questions of the surrounding members, but still kept his eyes on the crystal ball, on Doranbolt's increasingly ugly face in the crystal ball. Chapter 32. Why does Doranbolt look so ugly? Lahar subconsciously wanted to breathe a sigh of relief like the counselors around him, but after seeing Doranbolt's ugly face, Lahar felt that things might not be as simple as he thought. It might be a little unbelievable, but it's possible that Guyun really took a purgatory-shattering attack of tens of thousands of people. After all, until now, the Magic Council didn't know what the upper limit of Guyun's strength was. Guyun has not made a few moves since he appeared. It was in Magnolia that he showed the combat power of killing the 10 saints and the Magic Council's 1,000 wizards in one night. If this is the upper limit of Guyun's strength, although it is still very strong, it is not particularly outrageous. The Magic Council can still deal with it. However, this is not the upper limit of Guyun's strength. On the contrary, this is still the lower limit of Guyun's strength. In historical materials, the description of Guyun's strength as a dragon slayer 400 years ago is even more exaggerated. Well, exaggerated. No one is willing to believe that Guyun is really as described in history books. A battle split the continent in half, even if Guyun is called the strongest in history that can never be surpassed. After all, compared with Aknologia, the Black Dragon of the Endwings, and Ziref Dragneel, the ancestor of the Black Wizard, the pain that Guyun brought to the world is not enough. In other words, compared with Ziref and Aknologia who have been active in the world, Guyun disappeared for too long. For more than 400 years, Guyun didn't even show up. Hey! Lahar, are you listening to us? Now you have to give us an explanation. It seems that Lahar, you are very abnormal. Even if you are our Magic Council's law enforcer, you really went too far today. That's right, Lahar, if you don't explain to me what's going on now, I will apply to Speaker Gulen to revoke your position as law enforcer and go to the grassroots troops to gain more experience. Wait, something seems a little wrong. Of course something is wrong. If it were right, I wouldn't rush here. You know, I haven't watered my flowers yet. Yes, I have guests at home. If the situation is normal, I wouldn't leave the guests and run here to make trouble. No. I mean something is wrong in the crystal ball. That guy. That guy. What that guy, what can be wrong in the crystal ball? The Dragon Slayer has been refining it for a long time. In front of the purgatory shattering, the darkness devoured him without leaving any residue. How is it possible? Impossible, even if this guy is really strong, how is it possible, not to have any injuries? You have to know that this is the purgatory shattering performed by tens of thousands of people sharing magic power. There is really no magic more destructive than this except for the magic elves. But how can such a destructive magic have no effect at all? From the picture sent from the crystal ball just now, that extremely deep darkness. Purgatory shattering must have been launched successfully, but why is it like this? It's really unbelievable. With the reminder of one of the counselors, the other counselors who were making a fuss once again turned their attention to the crystal ball. When they saw the scene in the crystal ball, all the counselors shouted in horror. Then they fell into a dead silence. All the counselors didn't know what to say at this time, and even all the counselors couldn't help but feel a sense of panic in their hearts. The Magic Council actually provoked such a terrible enemy. Can the magic spirit power really deal with such an existence? All the council members had no time to care about what was right or wrong at this time. The most important issue now was how to deal with Guyun, the Dragon Slayer. You know, the purgatory shattering that was launched just now was the strongest power of the Magic Council besides the magic spirit power, but even so, there was still no way to deal with Guyun. It seems that the councillors have understood what is going on now. Lahar stared at Guyun who appeared in the crystal ball, then took a deep breath to divert his attention from the crystal ball, and said to all the councillors around him with a serious face, "The army composed of tens of thousands of wizards is the strongest force of our magic council except for the magic elves. And now even if there are tens of thousands of wizards sharing magic power to use the purgatory shatter, it has no effect. Except for the magic elves, we have no way to deal with this dragon slayer from 400 years ago. I have said just now that if our magic council army loses, then Doran Bolt will once again forcibly borrow the power of magic elves to launch a super large teleportation magic to take all the troops away. Then it's time to vote. First, on behalf of Speaker Gulen, I vote in favor of using magic elves against the Dragon Slayer." After hearing Lahar's words, the members of the surrounding council looked at each other, hesitated for a while, and became firm. "If you don't kill the snake, you will suffer from it. If you don't remove the grass, it will grow again. Since it has come to this point, why not do it more radically? Second. 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 Second." Chapter 33. Soon all the councillors agreed to use the magic spirit power. After all, it was already this time. Even if they didn't want to use it, they couldn't. Lahar took a look at Doran Bolt in the crystal ball and chose to activate the magic spirit power. Just as they had agreed, after finding that it was impossible to stand still, they immediately activated the teleportation magic to take all the troops of the Magic Council away from the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, Meru Alex, and then the Magic Council used the magic spirit power to attack Guyun. Following Lahar's choice, the satellite magic array that had been quietly floating outside the atmosphere began to charge and locate Guyun's location. The capital of the Kingdom of Fiori began to charge and activate the magic spirit power. This guy guided the dark wave of Purgatory's shattering to another space. After turning his attention to Guyun again and seeing Guyun who had experienced the dark wave of Purgatory's shattering but was unscathed, Doran Bolt roughly understood what Guyun had done. For now, except for using the last trump card magic elf power, we have no means to break through the space defense magic. Looking at Guyun who stood there without moving from the beginning to the end, Doran Bolt muttered to himself with a serious face, "It seems that we can only retreat. Most of the power of the council is here, and there can be no mistakes. Although my body is still a little weak, the number of people is much less than the previous crowds, so it should be possible." After understanding the gap between himself and Guyun, Doran Bolt knew that he and others could not have any impact on Guyun. As a user of teleportation magic, a branch of space magic, Doran Bolt deeply knows how powerful and terrifying a magician who is proficient in using various space magics is. The most important thing is that because of the scarcity of time and space magic, the Magic Council actually has very little experience in fighting time magicians and space magicians. Doran Bolt is just a half-baked space magician. The only hope left is to put the magic spirit power. The magic spirit power has the dual attributes of time and space. It is a super space-time destructive magic. The method used by this guy just now is ineffective in front of the magic spirit power. But, is it really that simple? No matter what, the most important thing now is to retreat quickly. There is no point in staying here any longer. Thinking of this, Dragneel did not hesitate anymore. He directly held the other magic crystal containing the magic spirit power in his hand. Just like the situation of teleporting all the people in the capital of the kingdom of Fiori just now, he slapped the ground again and forcibly mobilized the magic spirit power known as the power of God. Activate. Space Magic Teleport. A magic circle much smaller than before appeared under everyone's feet. At the same time, the Magic Council army also increased the magic suppression on Guyun at this moment. Dragneel still remembers that Guyun almost interrupted the teleportation magic just now. The magic circle was formed smoothly, and ripples began to appear in the space. It would be able to be activated successfully in the next moment. Did I say that I would let you go just like that? At this time, a very calm voice came over, without giving Dragneel any time to react. The magic circle that had been formed on the ground shook violently, making a series of dense cracking sounds and then shattered. Just now, I just didn't use much force, so you succeeded in teleporting. If I really let you teleport under my nose this time, I will have no place to put my face. Guyun looked at Dragneel, who had been lying on the podium and couldn't stand up after forcibly using the magic spirit power twice in a row, and said with a smile. After that, Guyun turned around and drew a line in the air with his hand. The magic power position composed of tens of thousands of magicians in the Magic Council also followed the footsteps of the teleportation magic circle and shattered. Everyone was horrified to find that the space around them seemed to be imprisoned and could not move. All of you will be my hostages from now on. If you, the Magic Council, do not agree to hand over the relevant data of magic spirit power to me, I will kill you. The higher the quality of magic power, the greater the power of magic. After hundreds of years of refining and refining, the magic power in Guyun's body has already reached a very high level in quality. From the beginning, it was gaseous, then misty, and then slowly developed into liquid, reaching the current level of almost substantiality. However, even so, Guyun found that the quality of his magic power was still quite different from the magic spirit power known as the power of God. The magic spirit power was solid state level, or even higher level magic power. The magic spirit power still has a certain degree of research value. Hey! Looking up at the sky suddenly, Guyun found that he seemed to underestimate the courage of the Magic Council. I don't know when an extremely huge magic circle appeared in the sky, covering the entire sky, and as time passed, the magic power fluctuations of this magic circle became more and more intense. Looking at the super large magic circle in the sky, Guyun was surprised. If Guyun remembered correctly, the magicians of the Magic Council who surrounded him now accounted for more than 90% of the Magic Council's current army. I didn't expect the Magic Council to be so decisive and directly planned to activate the magic spirit power to destroy him and Dragneel and others. But Guyun would never have thought that according to the normal plan, Dragneel would take everyone away, and then the Magic Council would activate the super space-time to destroy the magic spirit power. As a result, because he trusted Dragneel too much, or didn't expect Guyun to directly destroy the magic circle that had been successfully activated, he chose to activate the magic spirit power directly after Dragneel successfully activated the teleportation magic circle. Now, the Magic Council is actually in a mess. Chapter 34. The power of magic spirits is irreversible. So at this time, even if the Magic Council is in chaos, it is useless. Whether it is Lahar or the other councillors, they all look at the scene in the crystal ball with mixed feelings. Especially Lahar, his mood is extremely complicated. On the one hand, he hopes that Guyun can die under the bombardment of the magic spirit power, and on the other hand, he hopes that his best friend Dragneel will not die under the bombardment of the magic spirit power. A hole. Lahar punched the wall heavily. It's over, the Magic Council is over. Dragneel, who was lying on the podium, looked at the increasingly fierce magic circle in the sky and said with despair. Once the magic spirit power descends, although it is very likely to keep Guyun, the extremely dangerous dragon slayer, here forever, 90%, or even 95% of the Magic Council's army will also be wiped out. By then, the Magic Council would only have one magic elf and hundreds of magicians left to protect itself. Having lost most of its army, the Magic Council would have reduced its control over the local area to the lowest point. It might even reproduce the chaotic era 100 years ago when the Magic Council was not strong. Just think about how chaotic it would be if the dark magician guilds that were suppressed by the Magic Council and dared not show their heads in the darkness came out to take advantage of the drastic weakening of the Magic Council to cause trouble. Thinking of this, Dragneel closed his eyes in despair, without any hope. However, at this moment, Dragneel, who had closed his eyes in despair, suddenly opened his eyes again and looked at where Guyun was. An unprecedented sense of oppression suddenly rose from Guyun. The magic power that seemed to be real was burning and boiling crazily on Guyun's body. The ground of the central square was cracking like a spider web. All the surrounding buildings were shaking and collapsing, including the podium where Dragneel was lying, which also collapsed in a violent shaking. What kind of magic power is this? What kind of existence is this? Dragneel was lying in the ruins after the collapse of the podium, looking at Guyun with horror. At the same time, Dragneel also remembered some of the introductions about Guyun that he had seen in historical materials before. At that time, except for the analysis of his personality, he actually didn't believe the other introductions to his battle records. But at this time, Dragneel couldn't help but believe it. The oppression of magic power that erupted from Guyun's body alone actually exceeded the oppression of magic power that tens of thousands of troops of the Magic Council had just had. Interesting. Guyun looked at the huge magic circle in the sky and chuckled, since it has the attributes of time and space, the trick of the alien space will have no effect, so, let's fight hard. As Guyun's voice fell, a sword made of ice condensed in Guyun's palm, and the satellite magic circle in the sky also completed its energy storage at this time. The light column like a divine punishment fell from the sky with an extreme destructive breath. Guyun could clearly feel that with the descent of the magic spirit power, the surrounding space was shaking violently, and a trace of extremely subtle and extremely obvious, like glass shattering sound was emitted. The magic spirit power with the dual attributes of time and space has completely made the world unbearable. Of course, although the magic spirit power is very terrible, Guyun is much calmer, because Guyun is very clear that this level of magic spirit power will never threaten him. The use of magic spirit power by the Magic Council is too crude, which is to constantly gather the magic spirit power and release it once and for all. So I said, this crude method of use, no wonder humans were beaten by the dragons 400 years ago. Looking at the light column falling on him, Guyun said helplessly, and then just like the scene 400 years ago, he drew his sword, unsheathed it, and swung it in the direction of the magic spirit power. Slaw! The extremely terrible scene happened. As Guyun swung his sword, the space in front of Guyun was directly torn apart like a piece of rag, revealing the deep darkness behind the space like a black hole. And this space crack was still spreading wildly in the direction of the magic spirit power, and then in the horrified eyes of everyone, the magic spirit power emitting an extremely terrible aura was cut in half by Guyun's sword, and then shattered by the torn space crack. At this moment, whether it was Dragneel and the magicians of the Magic Council army present, or Lahar and the counselors who were watching through the crystal ball in the Magic Council, or other forces hiding in the dark and observing secretly, all fell silent. Why is the Magic Council able to have such a high status in the world? Isn't it because of the magic spirit power of super space-time destruction? If it weren't for the existence of the magic spirit power, which is absolutely shocking, the Magic Council would have been destroyed countless times. You should know that in the original book, Jackal, who is not very strong, is just one of the Tartaro's 9 demon gates, and can wipe out all the high-level people in the Magic Council. There are really many wizards stronger than Jackal. Okay, now I think you Magic Council should be desperate. Guyun looked at the sky without any movement, turned around and looked at Dragneel lying in the ruins and said with a smile, "Now all of you are my hostages. If you don't want me to kill you, then give me a set of research materials related to the magic spirit power. That's about it. You can teleport back directly to report the news. The teleportation magic just now was interrupted by me, so I think your body should not be so bad that you can't use magic. My patience is very limited." Chapter 35. At this point, Dragneel had nothing to say. After all, the Magic Council had completely lost. Barely controlling his body that was about to fall apart due to the 2 forced uses of magic spirit power, and exhausting the little magic power that he had just barely recovered, Dragneel disappeared from the spot with an extremely faint magic circle under his feet. Although Guyun wanted the research data and data of the Magic Council's core secret magic spirit power, considering that Guyun now had most of the Magic Council's troops as hostages and Guyun himself was more terrifying and powerful than the magic spirit power, Dragneel felt that the Magic Council still needed to consider it. After all, now I am the fish on the chopping board, and Gu Yun's strength was fully demonstrated just now. If he split the magic spirit power with one sword, then the whole continent with one sword. Although it is still unbelievable, it makes people a little suspicious. In short, the Magic Council has no ability to resist Gu Yun, so what if they don't hand it over? I'm afraid it will be even more embarrassing if Gu Yun comes to the door directly. Anyway, it's better than being killed by Gu Yun directly. After seeing unrivaled disappear, Gu Yun shook his head. Although there are many good things in the fairy tale world, it is indeed a deformed and terrible world. It's okay to use magic like a barbarian. It's hard to find some good magic, such as time magic and space magic, but it's just a branch of time or space or even just a certain characteristic of magic. Thinking of this, Gu Yun shook his head, looked at the mess around him, and used the ready-made materials to assemble a sofa. He sat on it comfortably and said with a smile, "Don't hide, I've seen you, little girl. Yes, don't think about whether to call me, I'm calling you." Just now, when Gu Yun was confronting unrivaled and others, he had already sensed the arrival of an individual whose time was incompatible with the time around him, just like the future Rogue. In the future, Rogue had already been teleported away because of unrivaled, so the identity of this individual who was out of tune with time was obvious, and it was Lucy from the future. Gu Yun estimated that it would take some time for the Magic Council to discuss it. After all, the magic spirit power was one of the most core secrets of the Magic Council, and even at this point, it was impossible to agree casually. So Gu Yun was going to find someone to chat with to kill time. There was no other way. The people in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori had just been teleported away by unrivaled using teleportation magic, and after a series of situations just now, the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori had already become a mess. Except for the Palace of the Lantern, which had some magic arrays with a solid effect, most of the buildings had collapsed, not to mention afternoon tea. Then a girl who was in a mess, with her clothes torn a lot, well, slightly exposed, appeared carefully in Gu Yun's sight. She was covered in dust and looked dirty, but she still couldn't hide the exquisiteness of her face. This girl who looks very embarrassed is the future Lucy in the original Great Magic Director Wuxia chapter. Because the future is too tragic, she was immersed in the memories of the past and came to the past through the eclipse gate. Ah! Hello! Future Lucy looked at the white-haired young man sitting on the sofa and said nervously, My name is Lucy, I don't mean anything else, I just want to ask some small questions. Of course, if you don't want to answer, I don't mind at all. I will leave here immediately and won't disturb you. The conflict between Gu Yun and the Magic Council just now, future Lucy saw the whole process, especially Gu Yun's record of cutting the magic spirit power in half with a sword, which made future Lucy horrified. Future Lucy is also a person who has experienced the Tower of Heaven incident. It can be said that the power of the magic spirit power is very clear. The despair of future Lucy is still fresh in her memory, but now Gu Yun actually broke the magic spirit power with a sword in front of her, which is really scary. And if future Lucy is not mistaken, the people fighting Gu Yun seem to be the Crescent Knights of the Magic Council. Although future Lucy does not know that the Magic Council and the Crescent Knights, which have long been destroyed by the dragons, still exist, there is no doubt that Gu Yun is the enemy of the Magic Council, and the enemies of the Magic Council are generally not good people. So, just like this, Gu Yun has been labeled as a big bad guy in the heart of future Lucy. Ask a question. Looking at future Lucy who slowly moved in front of him carefully, Gu Yun smiled and said, "Don't be so nervous, I think you should want to ask what year it is now, right?" Hey! After hearing what Gu Yun said, future Lucy immediately remembered her purpose, looked at the mess around her, and then asked nervously, What year is it now?" Future Lucy was very cautious and did not tell Gu Yun about her strange and long-destroyed Fiori kingdom. She only asked Gu Yun about the current era and time. Anyway, she only needed to know what year it was now, so Lucy could know the doubts in her heart. It is the year X791. Using wood-shaping magic and water magic to pour a glass of water for herself and her future Lucy, Gu Yun said slowly, "Congratulations, you have returned to the past and got the opportunity to change your life and reach the pinnacle of life. But I also have a small question for you, is there a legend of the Dragon Slayer in your future?" Chapter 36. Gu Yun didn't just want to kill time to chat with future Lucy. After discovering future Lucy, Gu Yun suddenly remembered some things that he cared about, such as the 3 different routes of development and future in the original book. The first future is the future of future Lucy. In the future of future Lucy, the invasion of 10,000 dragons occurred, and the world was once again ruled by dragons. Then future Lucy returned to the past without future Rogue's future and closed the eclipse door to spend 7 years in peace. The second future is because future Lucy changed the future, causing the world to change and thus producing the future of future Rogue. Because there was no invasion of 10,000 dragons, 7 years later in X798, the Black Dragon Acknowledge dominated the world for unknown reasons. No one could resist the notification of the Black Dragon Acknowledge, so future Rogue chose to go back to the past. The third is the normal main plot in the original book. Future Rogue returned to the future that future Lucy returned to. After a series of events, the 7 dragon plot occurred. P.S. I watched Fairy Tail again and found that the previous order was wrong. The first one was the future of Lucy in the future. It was because Lucy in the future changed the future that there was the future of Rogue in the future. Then Rogue in the future also used the Eclipse Gate to go back to the past, and finally the future in the main plot of the original book, where both Lucy in the future and Rogue in the future existed, happened. All of this would happen without Guyun. So, after discovering Lucy in the future, Guyun was a little concerned and curious about whether he existed in the future of Lucy in the future. After all, Guyun traveled to the world 400 years ago. According to common sense, whether it was the future of Lucy in the future or the future of Rogue in the future, he would exist. If he had himself, then the future Lucy or Rogue in the future would not have happened at all. Whether it was 7 dragons or 10,000 dragons, it didn't matter. If he wanted to make trouble, he could do it with one sword. 400 years ago, Guyun was able to cut off the continent with one sword and kill thousands of dragons. 400 years later, Guyun, who became more powerful, could not have faked the so-called tens of thousands of dragons. If he wanted to make trouble, he could just kill them again. Then the question is, in the future Lucy's future, does she exist or what is she doing? Really? After hearing Guyun's words, future Lucy suddenly became excited and said excitedly, "What month and day is it in X791? Has the annual Grand Magic Martial Arts Conference of the Kingdom of Fiori been held? No, that's not right. If it is really X791, I don't remember such a big thing happening in the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori in X791. In my memory, there is no memory of you fighting with the Magic Council at all." Although very excited, future Lucy quickly calmed down, because future Lucy found that there were many situations that did not match her memory, the most obvious of which was the battle between Guyun and the Magic Council, and the magic spirit power launched in the sky of the Kingdom of Fiori. If so many explosive events really happened in the future where future Lucy was, then future Lucy felt that it was impossible for her not to know these things, so future Lucy quickly calmed down. The situation did not seem to be as simple as she imagined. It seemed to have returned to the past, but this past was not the past that future Lucy knew. And future Lucy looked at Guyun and asked with a puzzled look, "Why, you seem to know my origin from the beginning, and know that I am from the future. Because the time on your body is incompatible with the time around you, it is too conspicuous." After hearing the doubts of future Lucy, Guyun smiled and said, "And this is not the most important thing. You haven't answered my question yet. Tell me, is there anything about the Dragon Slayer in your future?" Dragon Slayer. Future Lucy touched her head a little confused and began to recall, "It seems that I haven't heard of this name." "No, although I haven't heard of this name, I seem to have heard them say this name when the 10,000 dragons invaded. What damn it, Dragon Slayer dared to do this and that." After that, those dragons began to attack the Kingdom of Fiori. In a hurry, the Kingdom of Fiori had no power to resist. In fact, even if the Kingdom of Fiori was fully prepared, it would not work. Don't say the Kingdom of Fiori, even if Magic Council. Lucy Guyun. Lucy Magic Council. Just when Lucy was confused in the future, Guyun probably also understood what her situation would be like in Lucy's future. Chapter 37. After all, the butterfly effect means that even a small error in the past will cause unprecedented changes. In the future where Lucy is, or even the future where Rogue is, it is very likely that Guyun did not wake up from the frozen state. For example, Kainana in Fairy Tail did not find the ice coffin that froze Guyun, so he would not be disturbed by the mace wizard of the Dusk Ghost. Although Guyun had already studied the progress of immortality magic to 99.9%, the last 0.01% of progress was really up to fate. In short, in the future where Lucy or Rogue is, Guyun probably did not finish studying immortality magic, nor was he disturbed by the discovery of the Fairy Tail Guild members. Therefore, those two future selves probably overslept and missed all the plots. Thinking of this, Guyun smiled and shook his head. But compared to Guyun's ease and comfort, future Lucy's mood is heavier and more depressed. When she thinks about experiencing the despair she once experienced again, future Lucy's heart trembles. No matter what, future Lucy feels that at least everyone in the fairy tale guild must survive. As long as they can survive, there will be hope. On July 7, X791, 10,000 dragons will come to the kingdom of Fiori. Future Lucy recalled the bad meetings during the great magician's martial arts, and secretly made up her mind to be well prepared before that. The first person she needs to persuade is this guy who is so powerful that he can break the magic spirit power with one sword. Since this guy knows that he comes from the future, he should believe what he said. At this moment, in the Magic Council, after seeing Guyun shatter the magic spirit power with a sword in a relaxed manner, Lahar found in despair that he really had no way to deal with Guyun. In addition to the panic and constant pressure from the surrounding counselors, Lahar could only choose to tell all the counselors the cause and effect and wake up the sleeping Speaker Gulen. Speaker Gulen, who had already woken up, was having a meeting with other counselors. After Doranbolt came back, he told them that Guyun wanted the relevant information about the magic spirit power. At this point, although Speaker Gulen was very angry, he still chose to hold an emergency meeting to discuss whether to hand over the core technology of the magic spirit power of the Magic Council. Of course, although it was an emergency meeting, in fact, both Speaker Gulen and other counselors knew very well that handing over the core technology of the magic spirit power was inevitable. After all, the Magic Council had no way to deal with Guyun, and Guyun still had most of the Magic Council's troops as hostages. Now it is just a discussion on what form of handing over the magic spirit power would be more decent. Okay, what do you think about the Dragon Slayer using tens of thousands of wizards as a threat to obtain the magic spirit power? Speaker Gulen looked at the silent members sitting in their seats and said helplessly. To be honest, if possible, Speaker Gulen really didn't want to clean up this mess. Speaker Gulen even began to doubt whether it was a wrong choice to run for the Speaker of the Magic Council. If the core technology of the magic spirit power was handed over, it would definitely become a sinner. Even after hearing Speaker Gulen's question, the other members sitting in the meeting room remained silent. After all, everyone has seen that handing over the magic spirit power is inevitable. At this time, of course, they must try to remain silent and try to distance themselves from this incident. Looking at the situation in front of him, Speaker Gulen couldn't help but take a breath again, and just when Speaker Gulen was about to say something, the door of the meeting room was pushed open, and a panicked frogman in a white uniform ran in. What happened? Speaker Gulen looked at the panicked frogman and asked curiously, "Why do you look so panicked?" "Oh no, Speaker and all the members." After hearing Speaker Gulen's question, the frogman said in a panic, "Outside." Boom! A golden flash appeared, accompanied by a huge roar. The frogman who broke into the meeting room and was about to report the situation to Speaker Gulen and several other members was blown away and fell not far away and stopped moving. Ha 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 ha, what a pleasant explosion! After a puff of smoke, a person wearing a green vest, with yellow hair, wolf ears and a cat tail appeared in front of Speaker Gulen and the members. And this is Jackal, a member of Tartaro's 9 demon gates, the demon of the Book of Zeref, who has the explosion spell. Jackal looked at Speaker Gulen and other counselors who were looking at him in horror and said with an unhappy face, "It is very unpleasant to think that you trash have been suppressing us Tartaros. So, this time you all die." Boom 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 boom. Long before he appeared, Jackal had already filled the building of Magic Council with his own explosion seals. With the activation of the explosion seals, the entire Magic Council building turned into a ruin in an instant. Tartaros found that the power of Magic Council was extremely empty, and with the former Speaker Crawford's early surrender, he chose to take action at this time and eliminate all the high-level officials of Magic Council in one fell swoop. With Guyun waking up from the ice coffin, everything has become different. Chapter 38. Originally, Tartaros was going to stay dormant for a while, but Lahar sent most of the Magic Council's troops out, leaving the Magic Council with a lack of power. In addition, there was a nice insider like former Speaker Crawford. If they didn't do something, it would be a shame for the former Speaker Crawford to join. In addition, the Magic Council was unprecedentedly empty, so Tartaros was not going to let go of such a good opportunity. Therefore, the scene just now happened. With the information provided by former Speaker Crawford, Jackal, one of the 9 demon gates, easily sneaked into the Magic Council and directly wiped out all the high-level officials of the Magic Council. At present, although Tartaros launched an attack in advance under the influence of Guyun, the process is still not much different from the plot in the original book. Jackal pretended to be a bee in front of Doranbolt, so Doranbolt used teleportation magic to run away. Because Doranbolt is actually a member of the Fairy Tail Guild, even if he took the initiative to erase all his memories about Fairy Tail, he still subconsciously ran to the Fairy Tail Guild at this time, and reported the current situation to the 6th generation president of the Fairy Tail Guild, Funny, Makarov Driar with a panicked look. In an instant, the Fairy Tail people who were originally thinking about participating in the annual Great Magic Director Wu held by the Kingdom of Fiori to get the first prize to pay off their debts suddenly became nervous. But just like in the original book, the Fairy Tail people did not know Tartaros's purpose, and did not know how to stop Tartaros for a while. After all, no one knew what Tartaros would do next. Of course, it was not only the Fairy Tail people who were in a state of worry, there was another guy hiding in the dark, Rogue Cheney from the future. You must know that since the future Rogue came to the present time, he has been carefully maintaining the original direction of history, for fear that something completely different from the original history would happen, which would cause the past he knew to be no longer familiar. However, the series of events that followed were completely beyond control. First, in Magnolia, Guyun woke up from the ice coffin and had a conflict with the Magic Council's law enforcer Lahar, and instantly killed 1,000 Magic Council wizards, which made future Rogue feel that something was wrong. You know, the death of thousands of Magic Council wizards is not a trivial matter, but future Rogue remembers very clearly that these things did not happen back then, and what kind of nonsense did the so-called Dragon Slayer come from? Damn, it's completely different. It's completely different from the past I know. Future Rogue looked at the environment that changed drastically because of Doranbolt's use of the super-large teleportation array, and said angrily, "We must speed up the progress. Since this past is completely different from the past I know, I don't need to continue hiding it like this. Some things I do in person will be more effective. It's just that, but Future Rogue is still a little afraid of this so-called Dragon Slayer. You know, Future Rogue also saw the magic spirit power in the sky just now. If I guessed correctly, it should be the means used by the Magic Council to deal with this so-called Dragon Slayer, but I don't know what it was. The strength of this Dragon Slayer is indeed quite terrifying." But while being afraid of Guyun, Future Rogue also had the same doubts as Future Lucy. Guyun's strength is so strong, why has he never heard of Guyun's name in the future where he is? The most important thing is that everything has changed. Future Rogue doesn't know if Fairy Tail Guild can still get the first place as he knew in the past once the Great Magic Director Martial Arts Conference is held again. However, Future Rogue thought about it carefully again. The reason why Fairy Tail was able to get the first place was not luck but strength. Even at the beginning, Fairy Tail's luck was quite bad. So even if the past he came to was completely different from the past he knew, Future Rogue still felt that Fairy Tail had a great chance of getting the first place in the Great Magic Director Martial Arts Conference again. At that time, the Emerald Princess of the Kingdom of Fiori will completely believe everything he said and open the Eclipse Gate according to the method he said, together with the era when the Dragon Clan dominated the world 400 years ago. Thinking of this, Future Rogue's eyes flashed with unprecedented brilliance. All this is for the purpose of becoming the overlord of the world. At this time, Guyun, who was chatting with the future Lucy in the ruins of the capital of the Kingdom of Fiori, did not know what happened in the Magic Council. He did not know that the Magic Council was wiped out by Jackal, one of the Tartaro's 9 demon gates, just like the plot in the original book while he was chatting with the future Lucy. However, Doranbolt obviously did not dare to ignore Guyun, who had just brought him unprecedented shock. So after reporting the information about the Magic Council to the members of the Fairy Tail Guild, Doranbolt did not care about resting and quickly used the teleportation magic to return to Guyun. Originally, Doranbolt wanted to explain the current situation of the Magic Council to Guyun, but after being teleported, he was immediately attracted by the future Lucy. If Doranbolt remembered correctly, he seemed to have seen Lucy in the Fairy Tail Guild. How come there is also a Lucy on Guyun's side now? Lucy. Doranbolt looked at the future Lucy sitting in front of Guyun and asked in confusion, "Why are you here? Weren't you with Natsu and the others just now? Why did you suddenly come here?" Chapter 39. She is Lucy from the future. After seeing Doranbolt's puzzled expression, Guyun chuckled and said, "I think you Magic Council should know the relevant information about the Eclipse Gate." And she came to the present Lucy through the Eclipse Gate in the future. There is nothing to hide about this kind of thing. Anyway, the situation of Lucy in the future will be known by Unrivaled sooner or later. Eclipse Gate. After hearing Gu Yun's explanation, Unrivaled fell into deep thought. The Magic Council also knew that the Kingdom of Fiori had the Eclipse Gate. After all, the Eclipse Gate could not be ignored. The biggest use of the Eclipse Gate is to travel through time. It needs the key of the zodiac to open it. Traveling through time to change the past is a very dangerous thing. Therefore, since the Kingdom of Fiori held the first Grand Magic Director Martial Arts Conference, the Magic Council has been monitoring the Kingdom of Fiori. However, monitoring is monitoring. In fact, the Magic Council does not know whether the Eclipse Gate can travel through time. Therefore, the Magic Council has always taken a monitoring attitude towards the movements of the Kingdom of Fiori. After all, the Kingdom of Fiori is a country, and the Magic Council is only an organization that supervises wizards. If there is no dangerous action, the Magic Council is not convenient to take care of these things too much. Well, the matter about the Eclipse Gate is actually not important. Looking at Unrivaled, who was deep in thought, Gu Yun interrupted, "You came back so soon, it seems that it is you. The Magic Council has agreed to my request? Are you willing to hand over the relevant information about the magic elf power?" Now Gu Yun is more concerned about the issue of magic elf power. Although Gu Yun's current strength should be regarded as unparalleled in the world of fairy tale, no one would mind becoming stronger, right? Moreover, there are still some existences in the fairy tale world that are more vigilant, such as the god Anxur Ramel who cursed Ziref, which makes Gu Yun more concerned and vigilant. After all, from the original book, except for the curse of death hunting for Ziref and Mavis, he has never taken action at all. There is no upper limit to his strength, and he is a true god. Gu Yun is not sure whether he can do the so-called god-killing now. "I'm so sorry." At this time, Unrivaled came back to his senses and thought about the most important thing at the moment. Compared with the fact that all the high-level members of the Magic Council were wiped out by Tartaros, it was completely unimportant whether Lucy in front of him came from the future. Thinking of his best friend Lahar who had died in the first wave of Jackal's attack, Unrivaled couldn't help but show a sad expression on his face. Just when our Magic Council's speaker Gulen and other members were discussing whether to give you the data on magic spirit power, someone from Tartaros suddenly broke in. To be honest, I'm still very curious about how he broke in. It's very likely that there was a traitor in the Magic Council. You know, the headquarters of the Magic Council is not that easy to break into. But that guy basically encountered no obstacles along the way and went straight to the conference room to attack the speaker and the members. So, Lord Dragon Slayer, the magic spirit power you want may not be given to you in a short time. Now all the high-level officials of the Magic Council have died, and only the high-level officials of the Magic Council know the relevant information about magic spirit power. Unrivaled honestly explained the current situation of the Magic Council to Gu Yun. After all, Gu Yun's strength had been fully demonstrated before, not to mention that Gu Yun still had tens of thousands of magician troops in the Magic Council. Now that all the high-ranking officials of the Magic Council have been killed, Gu Yun's tens of thousands of wizards are needed to calm the situation. Gu Yun must not be allowed to choose to kill because he cannot get the magic spirit power, otherwise the Magic Council will really be finished. As the enforcer of the Magic Council, Unrivaled is still very loyal, and now that all the high-ranking officials of the Magic Council have been killed, the only one who can take charge is Unrivaled, the enforcer of the Magic Council. "Hey? Tartaros." Gu Yun was a little surprised after hearing what Unrivaled said. If I remember correctly, Gu Yun remembered that the plot of Tartaros should have happened after the Great Demon Director Wu. Why is it that now when there is no sign of the Great Demon Director Wu, he directly rebelled, and just like the situation in the original book, he killed the entire high-ranking officials of the Magic Council with one blow? And the future Lucy was more horrified. If I heard correctly, Unrivaled actually called the white-haired young man in front of him the Dragon Slayer, the Dragon Slayer that was sought by thousands of dragons? Lucy can still remember the scene when 10,000 dragons appeared, and the extremely strong dragon leading the way kept roaring, asking where the Dragon Slayer was and whether it would tear the Dragon Slayer alive or something like that. I roughly know what you mean. Looking at Unrivaled, who lowered his head and dared not look at him, he stretched and stood up and said with a smile, "That is to say, if I want to get the relevant research data on magic elves' power now, I must start from the top of the Magic Council, right? Although I am a little surprised that Tartaros is making trouble now, I don't mind destroying them completely if they hinder me, but I think there should be many former top leaders of your Magic Council who are still alive." As former chairman or members of the Magic Council, I think they still know something about the magic elves' power of your Magic Council. Go first and tell me the residence of the previous chairman and members of your Magic Council. Chapter 40. Since the top leaders of the Magic Council have been wiped out, there is no point in staying here now. Guyun is going to look for the former speaker of the Magic Council, Crawford Shim, who was in cahoots with Tartaros in the original story and then was abandoned by Tartaros. As the former speaker of the Magic Council, Crawford Shim knows a lot of secrets about the Magic Council, otherwise the Magic Council in the Tartaros chapter of the original book would not be so miserable. It can be said that the reason why Tartaros lost in the original book was entirely because he gave up. The former speaker Crawford Shim created a great advantage for Tartaros in the early stage of the Tartaros chapter. The next thing will naturally become simple. Even Fairy Tale in the original book can find the residence of the former speaker Crawford Shim by searching on his own. Doran Bolt, as the law enforcer of the Magic Council, is naturally unlikely to be unaware of it. Soon Doran Bolt told Guyun the residence of the former speaker Crawford Shim. The home of Crawford Shim, the former speaker of the Magic Council. It's really rare. I didn't expect that I would have a guest to visit me. An old man with a round face and a long white beard poured a cup of tea for the white-haired young man in front of him, and then sat down slowly. This round old man with a white beard was Crawford, the former speaker of the Magic Council. As for the white-haired young man, there is no need to explain. He is naturally our protagonist Guyun. It's just that although it's a bit inappropriate to ask such a question at this time, there are very few people who know where I live, so I'd like to ask, how do you know where I live? Crawford looked at Guyun and asked seriously, with a business-like expression. People who don't know him might think that Crawford is a very good old man. Of course, someone from your Magic Council told me. Guyun looked at Crawford, who looked serious, and said with a bit of amusement, I think you know my identity, so there is no need to say more nonsense. As long as it does not affect me, I have no time to care about the mess between you and Tartaros. Give me the relevant information about the core technology of your Magic Council, the Magic Guide Elf Power. Knowing about the affairs between Lord Crawford and us Tartaros, we can't let you go like this. Just as Guyun's voice fell, a slightly gloomy voice came out, and a woman with a charming figure but extremely cold eyes slowly walked out of the room behind Crawford. This is the enhanced demon goddess of the slave planet. Kyoka, the head of the Tartaros 9 demon gates, who has relatively strong strength. Kyoka looked at Guyun and said coldly, you are the dragon slayer from 400 years ago that people say outside. You dare to be so arrogant just because you killed a few human armies. When Guyun became famous, there were no demons. At that time, Ziref did not feel guilty because of the curse of death hunting. Instead, he felt inexplicably happy because he had gained unlimited time. It was not until a long time after the battle between Guyun and the Dragon Clan that Ziref had the idea of suicide and began to try to create a demon that could kill himself. Therefore, no matter how much Guyun is praised outside, Tartaros is actually the same as the previous Magic Council. Before they really see despair, they will not think whether Guyun is really particularly powerful. After all, no one saw Guyun's battle against the army of tens of thousands of magicians of the Magic Council and the destruction of the magic spirit power with one sword. Except for the future Lucy and Doran Bolt and the army that lost to the Magic Council, other people's understanding of Guyun is still at the level of Guyun killing thousands of magicians of the Magic Council in Magnolia. This also applies to Crawford Shim, the former chairman of the Magic Council. After all, whether it was Guyun suppressing tens of thousands of wizards or shattering the magic spirit power with one sword, it was just what happened. When I'm talking, ants, don't come out to seek a sense of existence. Guyun looked at Kyoka standing behind Crawford and was impatient. He pressed his hand down in the air and said lightly, as an ant, you should kneel down honestly when I'm talking next to you. Don't even move, understand? After hearing Guyun's words, Kyoka sneered and was about to say something, and then an unprecedented pressure suddenly pressed on him, leaving him no time to react. Boom! As the wooden ground shattered, the enhanced demon goddess of the slave planet, Kyoka, the head of the Tartaros 9 demon gates, knelt in the sawdust, or was suppressed by Guyun, kneeling on the ground and unable to move. Of course, Guyun did not burst out with momentum or anything. It is very tiring to burst out with momentum every day, causing the world to shake and tremble. It is more convenient to use gravity magic directly. For example, now, Guyun decisively gave the head of the 9 demon gates of Tartaros a 30-fold gravity package, making this enhanced demon with SM attributes lying on the ground and unable to stand up. Not bad, it looks much more comfortable now. Looking at Kyoka, who was lying on the ground and struggling to stand up, Guyun chuckled and said, "Remember it well, this is called the consciousness of an ant." Chapter 41. A hole, a hole. It's just a mere human, mere human, don't be so arrogant. Kyoka, who was lying on the ground, began to struggle frantically. A green light began to bloom on Kyoka's body. This was the strengthening spell that belonged to goddess of the slave planet. Kyoka, the head of the 9 demon gates of Tartaros, which could increase his power sharply. 400 years ago, Zeref gave Kyoka the strengthening spell in the hope that Kyoka could infinitely increase his power and finally achieve the goal of killing himself. It was a pity that Kyoka's strengthening spell did not infinitely increase his power, otherwise Kyoka would not be just one of the 9 demon gates in Tartaros. However, even so, Kyoka's strengthening spell was still very powerful. Guyun could feel Kyoka's rising power under the strengthening spell, and the whole house began to shake violently under Kyoka's struggle. But what shocked Kyoka was that no matter how much he strengthened his strength, no matter how hard he struggled, he could not stand up from the ground. Every time he strengthened his strength, the pressure and gravity on his body increased. Now his strength was 3 or 4 times that of the beginning, and the gravity on his body also increased 3 or 4 times. Moreover, the increase in strength does not mean that the body's ability to withstand can also be increased. Even if the demon has a very strong physical fitness, it can no longer bear it, and the bones in the body begin to make a very subtle cracking sound. How is it possible? Former speaker Crawford had no time to feel sorry for his house. He swallowed his saliva subconsciously when he saw the scene in front of him, and muttered to himself, "This is the enhanced demon of the head of the 9 demon gates of Tartaros. How could it be suppressed so easily? Although it is a dragon slayer, it has a very strong combat power that can kill thousands of wizards in seconds, but the 9 demon gates in Tartaros are also not bad. Basically, all of them are demons in the Book of Zeref, and they also have powerful power. How can the gap between them be so huge?" Crawford really couldn't believe it. You know, as a demon in the Book of Zeref, it can also fight against thousands or even tens of thousands of wizards. Just think about the demon Dai Lionra who destroyed several cities more than 10 years ago. You know, although Dai Lionra is powerful, he is definitely not ranked among the 9 demon gates of Tartaros. That's why Crawford was so confident after knowing Guyun's identity. After all, the enhanced demon goddess of the slave planet Kyoka, the head of the Tartaros 9 demon gates, was in his home. However, Crawford's confidence had long disappeared without a trace as Kyoka was crushed from all sides. It seems that this is almost your limit. Guyun looked at Kyoka, whose strength was still increasing, but whose body began to gradually collapse and couldn't bear it, and chuckled, "The enhanced spell is indeed a good thing, but it's a pity that it is not perfect. When you go back to revive, learn from this lesson and think about what you should do as an ant." After saying that, Guyun pressed his palm down again. Boom! The pressure far beyond Kyoka's limit suddenly pressed on Kyoka's body. The bones in his body were shattered at this moment, and his body completely collapsed under the dual pressure of the enhanced spell and external gravity. Then, everything became quiet. It's a pity that I don't have any research on souls, otherwise she wouldn't even have a chance to revive. Guyun took a sip of the tea that the former speaker Crawford had poured before, and then said to Crawford with a smile, "So, former speaker, Crawford, the biggest traitor in the Magic Council, can you now give me the relevant research data on the Magic Council's core technology, the magic elf power?" I think the former speaker Crawford Shim, who betrayed the Magic Council, will definitely not keep any secrets for the Magic Council anymore, right? Prison Beast, Allegria. This is the Tartaros base camp that the Magic Council had never found no matter how hard they searched. At this time, in the Prison Beast's body, in the laboratory where the core of hell is stored. It's incredible, it's incredible. A woman with short black hair and a pair of rabbit-like hair on her head, who looks a little funny, began to shout loudly. This Lami, who plays the role of a regeneration and transformation demon in Tartaros, is an extremely nervous guy. And it is also a demon in Zeref's book, and possesses the spell Slippery. To be honest, I am very curious. When Zeref created Lami, he wanted Lami to kill him. Master Sela, it's incredible. Master Kyoka appeared in the Hell Core. It's incredible. I don't know who killed Master Kyoka. Lami looked at Kyoka who appeared in the Hell Core with a look of surprise. Master Kyoka. Not far away, a woman with a graceful figure, a pair of horns and long black hair on her head, after hearing Lami's voice, directly threw away her favorite book in her hand, and hurried to the front of the Hell Core. Seeing Kyoka appearing in the Hell Core, she screamed in surprise. This is the command demon goddess of the Chill Moon. Sela, one of the members of Tartaro's 9 demon gates, who is responsible for managing the Hell Core used to resurrect demons. Well, she is also the mistress of goddess of the slave planet. Kyoka. Lord Kyoka, didn't you go to the former chairman of the Magic Council? Sela looked at Kyoka, who was waiting for resurrection in the core of hell, and said in surprise, how did it become like this? Who killed Lord Kyoka? At this point, Sela's face became extremely gloomy. Chapter 42. Okay, Sela. After hearing Sela's voice, Kyoka became gentle and said, resurrect me first, and then I will report what happened this time to Lord Hades. As for who killed me, Sela, you are not even as good as me, and you still want to avenge me. Anyway, I am not really dead, I just resurrected after a short time. Although he is a demon, he has his own emotions, which is rare. Even the so-called Hades Mard Gear, who abandoned all emotions and was very cruel and cold, would be very excited when he saw Zeref, and even shed tears when he was destroyed by Zeref. But, Lord Kyoka. No need to say more, Sela. Seeing that Sela wanted to say something, Kyoka shouted coldly and said seriously, although I don't want to admit it, I have to say that guy is really powerful. I think only Lord Pluto can defeat that guy. Why is Lami still standing here? Unlike the unwillingness shown at the house of former Speaker Crawford, after calming down a little, Kyoka could feel Guyun's terrible strength. You know, from beginning to end, Guyun didn't really fight. Even if he didn't use all his strength to release all the cursed power in his body and transform into the demon form of the Book of Zeref, Kyoka knew very well that even if he really transformed into the demon form of the Book of Zeref, it would be useless. The great thing is to make Guyun, who didn't fight against him, become a little active and then crush him. The calmed-down enhanced demon goddess of the slave planet. Kyoka still has a considerable degree of self-knowledge. Is it really that powerful? After seeing Kyoka's serious expression, Sela opened her mouth to say something, but she didn't say it. At the same time, deep in the prison beast, the man who had been holding a book with an ancient atmosphere and leaning lightly on the skeleton throne raised his mouth slightly, chuckled and murmured to himself, can Kyoka be easily killed? Interesting, interesting, it's really getting more and more interesting. It's really interesting to be able to make me, Mard Gear, who has abandoned all emotions, feel emotions again. Dragon Slayer. Mard Gear is very curious whether the Dragon Slayer can really kill dragons. At the same time, Guyun also learned from the former Speaker Crawford about the whereabouts of the research materials related to the Magic Council's core technology, the Magic Elf power. In order to prevent being fooled by Crawford, Guyun personally took Crawford to find it. The guys in the fairy tale world are all good at committing suicide, especially the villains, who are more good at committing suicide than the others, and they force the game that is sure to win to a complete collapse. Guyun really can't guarantee whether the former Speaker Crawford, a typical expert in committing suicide, will risk his life to fool him. After all, the former Speaker Crawford is already risking his life to cooperate with Tartaros as an insider. I've already told you that I didn't lie to you, but you still insisted on bringing me here. Former Speaker Crawford looked at Guyun, who had already obtained the research materials related to magic elves, and complained a little, now everyone knows that I brought you here to find the research materials on magic elves. Then I should be fine now. In exchange, you must not tell others about the cooperation between me and Tartaros. It is because I brought it that no one dares to gossip. Guyun looked at the research materials on magic elves in his hand and thought about it, and then said to former Speaker Crawford with an impatient look, okay, now go back to where you came from. Just don't disturb me, I don't have time to care about your shit. Then Guyun disappeared directly from the sight of former Speaker Crawford. If possible, Guyun didn't want to say too much to the idiot. In fact, Guyun had one more thing he didn't say to Crawford, that is, Tartaro's plan would definitely disturb him. After all, once the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb Fizz explodes, it can destroy the magic power of the entire continent. There is nothing special about Guyun. Although the magic power in Guyun's body is forcibly snatched from the outside world, it will not be affected by Fez, but it does not mean that it is really unaffected. Once the White Legacy Fez explodes, the magic power in Guyun's body will not disappear, but it will not be replenished again, unless it is used with vitality, otherwise it will be used less and less. If it were not for the fact that he did not know the specific location of Tartaros, Guyun would have slashed it with a sword from a distance. Guyun is very confident in fighting, but he is not good at some auxiliary aspects. 400 years ago, because of the repeated pressure from the Dragon clan, Guyun has been desperately improving his strength. Guyun does not know anything about some magic that is of no help in fighting. In short, with the series of actions by Tartaros, the impact of the series of events before Guyun soon passed, and everyone focused their attention on the fact that all the high-level members of the Magic Council were attacked by the Dark Guild Tartaros, and the speaker and all the members were killed. The annihilation of the high-level members of the Magic Council is not a small matter. At the same time, the former speaker Crawford also moved directly to the prison beast in the Tartaros base camp after the Guyun incident, and this was also the request of Tartaros. After all, before the launch of the White Legacy Magic Pulse Bomb Faith, the former speaker Crawford played a very important role. Before the former speaker Crawford's value was completely exhausted, everyone in Tartaros would treat him politely. Of course, once there is no use, there is no need to say what the result will be. The main members of Tartaros are basically demons. What good can come of cooperating with demons? Chapter 43. The following things naturally became simpler. Although Guyun knew that Tartaros's plan would definitely hinder him, considering that he was not very good at tracking, Guyun did not take Tartaros's matter to heart for the time being. If the fez was really activated, then all the fez could be smashed with one sword. And it is possible that Tartaros's affairs do not need to be intervened by himself from beginning to end. After all, the disappearance of magic power will not only have a considerable impact on Guyun, but also on other existences. It is even more fatal. For example, the Black Dragon Acknowledger, which did not appear in the Seven Dragons incident in the Great Magic Director Wu chapter in the original work, actually appeared after the full launch of the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb Fez. What does this mean? Guyun is very clear. Obviously, the reduction of the world's magic power has a huge impact on Acknowledger. From the situation that the Fire Dragon King Dragneel fully suppressed the Black Dragon Acknowledger during the launch of the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb Fez, Guyun is even more certain of this. Because of the special nature of Fire Dragon King Dragneel, White Legacy FES did not have any impact on Fire Dragon King Dragneel during the activation period. In other words, it is almost the same as Guyun's situation. The power in the body is absolutely his own and will not be affected by the disappearance of external magic power. At most, it will be a little less and will not be replenished. After not paying attention to Tartaros's affairs, Guyun began to study how to further purify the magic power in the body based on the relevant information of Magic Guide Spirit Power. To be honest, the purity of Guyun's magic power in his body can be said to be the purest magic power among the life in the fairy tale world after hundreds of years of continuous purification and refining. Otherwise, Guyun would not have been able to crush the Dragon clan back then. You know, the reason why the Dragon clan is so invincible is because the quality and quantity of magic power far exceeds that of humans. In fact, it can be seen from the comparison of body size that all wizards in the fairy tale world are born with it. Except for some secret methods with a price or very rare opportunities, wizards in the fairy tale world can only become stronger naturally over time, and it is almost the limit after adulthood. The reason why Guyun was able to crush the Dragon clan was that he relied on his own brain to actively absorb and purify magic power, so that the quality and quantity of his magic power gradually exceeded that of the world's dominant Dragon clan at that time, and then successfully possessed dragons and even surpassed dragons and finally completely crushed the dragon's combat power. Then even in this case, Guyun had to admit that there was still a considerable difference in quality between his magic power and the magic guide spirit power known as the power of God. If you have to describe how big the difference is, then use the magic power form of the cultivation level as an analogy. Generally, wizards are in the gaseous state of practicing Qi, while Guyun is in the liquid state of building foundation, and the magic guide spirit power is naturally the solid state of golden elixir. At present, Guyun is stuck at the level of changing from liquid to solid. It can't be said to be stuck. The main reason is that it takes a lot of time for Guyun to continue to absorb and purify from liquid to solid, so Guyun is ready to make a try. Since he can increase the amount of magic in his body by absorbing the magic factors in the atmosphere and then compress it to improve the quality, then can his magic, which is now in liquid form, absorb higher level magic, such as directly absorbing the magic elf power called the power of God to speed up the process of changing from liquid to solid. Originally, Guyun didn't have such an idea, but after seeing the scene where Bolt directly used the magic elf power to enhance the magic effect he used, Guyun had such an idea in his mind. Although Bolt suffered a lot or even serious trauma because of the forced use of the magic elf power, Guyun can also understand that if the body is strong enough, can it ignore the damage caused by the magic elf power? And in the fairy tale world, who has a stronger body than Guyun? Guyun felt that he could give it a try. If he succeeded, the time for the magic power in Guyun's body to turn from liquid to solid would definitely be greatly shortened. Even if he failed, with Guyun's current physical fitness, the so-called side effects could be basically ignored. The immortality magic that Guyun spent 400 years researching was no joke. The extreme enhancement of cell lifespan and strength as well as the number of divisions. Guyun's lifespan was at least in the tens of thousands. He could live for tens of thousands of years purely on his body. So it was easy to imagine how strong this body was. It was definitely not just an old turtle or salted fish that lived a long life. In this way, during the period when Tartaros and Fairy Tail launched a full-scale offensive and defensive battle, Guyun created the first magic crystal containing magic elf power according to the research data of the Magic Council. Imitating the way Bolt used magic elf power at that time, Guyun directly held the magic crystal containing magic elf power in his hand and crushed it directly, and directly absorbed the magic elf power that flowed out into his body. Guyun could clearly feel that as he absorbed the magic spirit power floating in the air into his body, the magic power that was originally very stable under his control began to heat up uncontrollably and then boiled completely. It was just different from the magic power that evaporated in Bolt in an instant. The liquid magic power in Guyun's body was of extremely high quality, and the magic spirit power that Guyun absorbed was not much, so the magic power in Guyun's body only boiled for a few seconds before cooling down again, because the magic spirit power absorbed into the body had been absorbed and neutralized by the magic power in Guyun's body during this period. And through extremely subtle control of the body, Guyun could feel that the total amount of magic power in his body had slightly decreased and thickened. Feeling this, Guyun couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise in his eyes. It is feasible to accelerate the time for magic power to transform from liquid to solid by absorbing higher level magic spirit power. Chapter 44. Next, Guyun even put some effort into the research and improvement of ancient magic, and began to manufacture a large number of magic crystals containing magic spirit power to absorb, and quickly purify and improve the total amount and quality of magic power in the body. These are some old habits of Guyun, because 400 years ago, when he was not completely strong, he was often chased by crazy dragons and had no way to go to heaven or earth, so Guyun still subconsciously desires to become stronger. Even if Guyun's current strength is already invincible in the world of Fairy Tail. Turn your attention back to Tartaros and Fairy Tail. Because Guyun had a relationship with him before and showed a strength far beyond the head of Tartaros 9 Demon Gates goddess of the slave planet Kyoka, even with the participation of former speaker Crawford, Tartaros did not start to waste as shown in the original book after taking a huge advantage. Tens of thousands of magicians from the Magic Council also took action under the leadership of Bolt. Although they didn't know what Tartaros's purpose was or where Tartaros's base was, they only needed to do what Tartaros wanted. Every former member of the Magic Council was protected by 1,000 magicians. Even Fairy Tail sent out elite main members to assist. After all, Makarov knew very well that Bolt was a member of Fairy Tail, and now Bolt was the most powerful person in the Magic Council. There was no need to say more about what this meant. Under the protection of the Fairy Tail main force and the Magic Council's Magician Corps, it became extremely difficult for Tartaros to assassinate every former member of the Magic Council. Of course, despite the difficulties, Tartaros relied on the information constantly betrayed by the former speaker Crawford, who was an insider, and coupled with its own advantages, it was still able to continue to assassinate former members of the Magic Council under the double obstruction of the Fairy Tail main force and the Magic Council army. After all, if you can't beat them, then self-destruct. This trick is really unsolvable. After all, they can be resurrected. For example, Jackal, one of the 9 demon gates of Tartaros, can destroy the entire city with his self-destruction power. In this case, no matter how many magician armies there are, it is useless. In short, under the self-destruction offensive of Tartaros, Fairy Tail and the Magic Council were gradually suppressed. Slowly, almost all the former members of the Magic Council were assassinated. The only ones left alive were Makarov's old friend Yajima and the extremely powerful Jalal. Damn it! In Magnolia, at the Fairy Tail headquarters, a muscular man with a very tough appearance and white hair punched the wall heavily. Let those guys from Tartaros succeed again. A man can't be so useless. The muscular man said as he punched the wall again with his fist. The muscular man who kept shouting manly was Elfman, one of the main elites of fairy tale. With the soul of the Beast King in his whole body, he had the top strength of A level, and even reached S level in the later period. Elfman, don't blame yourself like this, there is nothing you can do about it. A girl who also had white hair and looked very gentle hurriedly stepped forward to hold Elfman. This was Elfman's sister Myra Jane. Myra Jane looked at the wounded companions around her and said helplessly, those guys from Tartaros will self-destruct as soon as they find that they can't beat them. There is no solution at all, and they can continue to revive. We are still lucky. There are not tens of thousands. The Magic Council has suffered a lot of casualties because of the continuous self-destruction of those guys from Tartaros. This is not a solution at all. Because of Tartaros' step-by-step pressure, the former members of the Magic Council could no longer withstand the pressure of death and told Fairy Tail the information about the Magic Council's real absolute secret white legacy magic pulse bomb faith. At the bar in the Fairy Tail Guild Hall, a short, half-bald old man and a very cute little Lolita in a pink cape were also discussing something. These two were the sixth, funny, president of Fairy Tail, Makarov Dr, and the first president, Mavis Vermilion. Makarov, how many former members of the Magic Council are still alive? Looking at the wounded Fairy Tail members, Mavis asked Makarov beside her with a serious face, I think the former speaker of the Magic Council, Crawford Shim, may have defected to Tartaros. What? Makarov, who was also a little troubled, was surprised after hearing Mavis' words, and said in disbelief, how could the former speaker defect to Tartaros? You know, there are great conflicts between Tartaros and the Magic Council, especially the speaker. How could the former speaker? I thought about it, Makarov, this is no longer very likely, but a certain possibility. After hearing Makarov's unbelievable voice, Mavis's expression became more serious, and she said seriously, even the former members don't know the residences of other former members, and the current members and the speaker of the Magic Council are all dead. How does Tartaros, as a dark guild, know the precise addresses of every former counselor? You know, even the intelligence collected by Fairy Tail for many years cannot know the addresses of all former counselors so quickly, but the people of Tartaros can know it directly, which is a big problem. First generation, you mean? Makarov's pupils shrank suddenly. There must be a high-ranking traitor on the Magic Council side. And considering that most of the former counselors have died and the top leaders of the Magic Council have been wiped out, this high-ranking traitor is the former speaker Crawford Shim. Chapter 45. Get ready for the decisive battle, Makarov. The decisive battle. Yes, the decisive battle. It is unlikely that Tartaros will assassinate the former counselor under our heavy protection, so there is no other way except to send all members to kill him by force. So, I think Tartaros may launch a general offensive soon. By understanding some of the current situations, Mavis can be sure that the war with Tartaros has become completely intense this time, and Tartaros will soon have a big move. After all, the Magic Council is not just watching from the sidelines. Jalal, who is elusive, is temporarily ignored. As a former 10 Wizard Saints, Jalal has a very strong strength, so there is no need to worry. But the former counselor Yajima has been protected by a group of people. Even if Tartaros self-destructs, it will be useless with tens of thousands of wizards. You can find him from a distance and kill him in advance. In fact, Tartaros had already assassinated Yajima many times. Each time, he was discovered far away from Yajima, and then Fairy Tail and other powerful S-class wizards went to entangle him, and the Magic Council's army surrounded and killed him, reducing the damage of Tartaros' self-explosion to the minimum. It can be said that if Tartaros still relied on this form of assassination one by one, and self-explosion when the assassination failed, then there would be no results even if the assassination lasted for a year. After all, after so many self-explosions, the Magic Council had already taken corresponding measures for Tartaros' self-explosion. For example, the self-explosion magic barrier particles of the disaster demon storm would be collected and sealed by a specific collection magic, and Jackal's self-explosion would be directly teleported to a distance by Unrivaled using teleportation magic. The reason why Tartaros was able to assassinate successfully before was simply because there were too many former counselors who needed to be protected, which led to the dispersion of power and Tartaros' success. Now, most of the former members of the Magic Council have been assassinated, and only Yajima is left with the exact location, so all they need to do is focus on protecting Yajima, and it will be difficult for Tartaros to succeed. It is worth mentioning that perhaps because he felt unprecedented powerlessness in front of Guyun, or because Tartaros did not capture the fairy queen Erza Scarlet and the demon Myrajane in fairy tale as in the original book, the former speaker of the Magic Council Crawford did not tell the people of Tartaros that he could transfer the key. It is even more impossible for him to transfer the key to himself, because the former speaker Crawford suddenly thought that he actually had no power to resist in front of Tartaros. Now he has nothing to do and is treated politely because he is still worth cooperating with, but what if he is no longer worth cooperating with? Former speaker Crawford began to regret cooperating with Tartaros, but he also knew that he had boarded Tartaros' pirate ship and there was no way back. So even though he began to regret cooperating with Tartaros, he could only continue cooperating. Or, he hoped that Tartaros would keep its word after achieving its goal. Anyway, because of former speaker Crawford's various doubts and thoughts, Tartaros decided to go to Magnolia to kill Yajima directly after a discussion. Humph. Just a human. After hearing Kyoka's report, Pluto marred. Gear's eyes flashed with coldness. I can't wait any longer, President End. Looking at the ancient book with the word End printed on it, Hades marred. Gear chuckled and murmured to himself, I guess you, who have been sealed for hundreds of years, can't wait any longer, President End. Don't worry, it will be fine soon. Soon, President End, you will be able to unseal and see the light of day again. All this is for the great Zeref. This time, Tartaros' acting president, Hades marred. Gear, decided to take action himself. Magnolia, in a restaurant called 8 Island. Oh. It's really a magical dish. It tastes really good. Guyun finished the soup in front of him and said contentedly, I've been busy recently and haven't rewarded myself well. Now it's really comfortable to have a big meal. Really? It's also very happy to be praised by customers. A little old man with a horse face who looked about the same size as Makarov said happily after hearing what Guyun said, this is my ancestral magic skill, but there are many repeat customers. Before, I wasted a lot because of my work in the Magic Council. Now I can't continue to waste it. Yes, this is the last former counselor Yajima who survived besides Jalal. Well, having a good cooking skill makes Guyun feel quite good. In this era without the internet, satisfying the desire for oral food is one of the few pursuits of Guyun besides becoming stronger. At this time, it has been almost half a month since Guyun got the relevant research data on magic elf power from the Magic Council through former speaker Crawford. Because he had been paying attention to the Tartaros incident, when he felt that things were about to reach a white-hot stage, Guyun came directly to Magnolia to wait. Of course, Guyun came out for more than just this reason, another reason was that Guyun had no money. Chapter 46. There is a saying on earth that a cannon shot is worth a fortune. This saying is very applicable to the fairy tale world, especially to the magic spirit power, which is called the power of God. The reason why the Magic Council rarely uses magic spirit power is that there is no suitable reason to cause a serious chain reaction, and the cost of using magic spirit power every time. This cost is absolutely huge. According to Guyun's spending during this period, the money unit required to send out the magic spirit power of the level that attacked him last time is definitely in the billions, or even billions. In just less than a week, Guyun has almost spent the money he got from the Dusk Ghost, although the quality of the magic power in Guyun's body has also improved a lot in this week. If Guyun can continue to absorb magic spirit power into his body, then in 2 years or even a year at most, the magic nature of Guyun's body will completely change from the original liquid to solid. At that time, Guyun's strength will once again leap forward, from the original invincible to even more invincible. However, the cost of a series of materials required to make the magic crystal containing the power of magic elves is a huge amount that is a bit of a headache. Robbery or robbing is a good way, but it is very troublesome. If it can be robbed in one go, Guyun certainly won't mind, but robbery does make money quickly, but it is not the fastest. It is difficult for Guyun to get enough money for his magic power transformation through robbery at one time. And compared with robbery, another way to actively let people send money to you is better, so this time, in addition to Tartaros's matter, there is also the matter of making money. For the matter of making money, Guyun has roughly some ideas of his own. After all, this is a world of magic. Although it is far inferior to the world of science and technology in some ways, it is far superior to the world of science and technology in some ways. In fact, magic can be completely called black technology that science cannot explain for the time being. Many of Gu Yun's ideas on Earth can be accomplished with the help of magic, especially in the field of entertainment. Gu Yun is absolutely confident that he can make a lot of money. Thinking of this, Gu Yun's mouth curled up slightly, and he began to plan what kind of entertainment he should use to make money after the Tartaros incident. By the way, he can also develop the entertainment industry, which will also be of great benefit to the magic network era that Gu Yun imagined in the future. Then, can I ask, is the famous dragon slayer really just eating here? Yajima put away the spatula in his hand for cooking, looked at Gu Yun and asked happily, or is there any other purpose? Old men are a little curious when they are old. After all, the recent Tartaros incident really made me sleepless all the time. Although most people in the world only know Gu Yun's name, Yajima, as a former member of the Magic Council, can still know what Gu Yun looks like, and ordinary people cannot come to Yajima who is currently surrounded. It is the existence of Gu Yun, an irresistible force, that can do this, otherwise even the members of the Fairy Tale Guild will be symbolically checked. After all, Yajima is related to the comfort of the world. Once the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb phase is launched, all the wizards in the world will suffer from magic deficiency, which is fatal and has no solution. At that time, most of the wizards in the world will die from magic deficiency. After all, everything is relative. Since vitality has been greatly enhanced due to magic, almost every wizard is an indestructible cockroach. Once the magic disappears completely, every wizard will become like thin paper and break at the touch. Even Gu Yun himself is the same, but unlike other people, the magic power in Gu Yun's body is plundered. The magic power in Gu Yun's body is marked with Gu Yun's label, and will not be affected by the disappearance of the world's magic power. At most, as mentioned before, it will never be replenished unless Gu Yun uses vitality to replenish it. As for the purpose, there is nothing wrong with it. Of course, it's because of Tartaros. After all, your Magic Council's White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb faith will cause me a lot of trouble. Otherwise, I really don't want to get involved in these trivial matters. I am still easy to talk to. As long as I am not provoked, it doesn't matter to me who rules the world. After hearing what Yajima said, Gu Yun said with a little annoyance, then think about making money. My daily expenses are still very high, and I must make more money. Really, it seems that the Magic Council has indeed caused a lot of trouble for everyone. Yajima also sighed. Yajima is also a veteran of the Magic Council. He also knows the history of the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb faith. The Magic Council has existed for 400 years. Almost not long after the Dragon Clan disappeared, the Magic Council was established, and the Magic Council has only had the magic elf power for more than 100 years. What did the Magic Council rely on to survive for nearly 300 years before? It is the self-destructing artifact of the White Heritage Magic Pulse Bomb faith. It can be said that the success or failure of Magic Council depends on the White Heritage. In the past, Magic Council survived the historical torrent with the White Heritage, but now it has suffered a near-destructive blow because of the White Heritage. Before Yajima could continue to sigh, a huge explosion sounded from afar. What happened? Yajima adjusted the chef's hat on his head and asked in a panic, Tartaros. Gu Yun smiled and said, yes, Tartaros. Chapter 47. In the sky not far from Magnolia, tens of thousands of magicians from the Magic Council are constantly trying to attack a huge square building with a strange big mouth in the sky. This is the base of Tartaros. The prison beast, which is controlled by the power of Hades' Marred gear, can fly in the air and has the ability to decompose and collapse buildings. Because the prison beast is too obvious, the moment the prison beast appears in the air, the magician army surrounding Magnolia discovered the existence of the air prison beast and tried to attack it. It must be said that the magic circle used to share magic power when fighting Gu Yun still has a considerable effect. Under the leadership of unrivaled, the prison beast floating in the sky became shaky. But even so, the prison beast in Tartaros's base camp still did not make much movement, and I don't know when, a young man in a black robe with long black hair appeared on the top of the prison beast. This young man is the demon in the Book of Zeref, the actual ruler of Tartaros, Hades' Marred gear. Humans who are struggling hard in despair are so pleasing to the eye. Hades' Marred gear looked at the wizard army that was constantly attacking the prison beasts below and chuckled, it is really rare that humans who are like ants can make me marred. Gear's so happy. Although Hades' Marred gear spoke very softly, whether it was unrivaled, the wizard army, or everyone in Magnolia, they could hear Hades' Marred gear's voice very clearly. Reading. unrivaled, who was commanding the battle on the ground, muttered to himself with a little confusion after hearing what Hades marred. Gear said, "Whose voice is this? Who are you?" "Hades, marred." Gear. "Hades marred." Gear was still concerned about Dragneel, the leader, so he answered immediately after hearing Dragneel's question. "But you don't need to remember this name. Pluto marred." Gear stood at the highest point of the prison beast and looked at the densely packed grindstone army on the ground like ants and said lightly, "Because you can't see the sun tomorrow. As a reward for my pleasure, everyone is in joy." "Joy? As Pluto marred?" Gear's voice fell, the ground where Dragneel and the surrounding magician army stood began to shake wildly, and the pink viscous substance kept emerging from the ground, pulling and wrapping the magicians standing on the ground one by one, and finally formed pink statues. In just a moment, the Magic Council's tens of thousands of magician troops were completely transformed into a pile of pink statues, and only Dragneel escaped by teleportation magic. Just a moment, tens of thousands of wizards are all over." Looking at the figure standing at the highest point of prison beast, Dragneel muttered to himself in disbelief, "Such an existence, how can such an existence be so frequent?" Dragneel's sense of time has really begun to collapse. It's okay that Guyun, an invincible dragon slayer from 400 years ago, appeared before, but he didn't expect that there would be a Hades who could kill tens of thousands of wizards in seconds. When did this world become so terrible? Is this really the peaceful world supervised by the Magic Council? Did one escape? Hades marred. Gear looked at Dragneel, who used teleportation magic to escape from danger instantly, and said with interest, "It's quite interesting magic, but the rest of the time is up to you, don't let marred Gear wait too long." After that, Hades marred. Gear didn't even bother to look at Megunoria, and went straight back to the body of prison beast and sat on his own skull throne. In the eyes of Hades marred Gear, it was just a mere human being, not even worth his action. Similarly, the former speaker Crawford, who had been hesitating, finally made up his mind at the moment when the Magic Council was completely defeated. Since he had decided to become an insider and cooperate with Tartaros, he could only go all the way. If Tartaros's plan failed and was defeated because of his hesitation, then his fate would not be much better, so it would be better to surrender directly and be more thorough. At this point, he could only bet on whether the devil was trustworthy. Former Speaker Crawford chose to use his former Speaker authority to transfer the key to unlock the White Legacy Magic Pulse Bomb Faith from Jalal to his own body. Next, he only needed to find a scapegoat. However, it was a pity that everything was similar to the situation in the original book. When the last use value disappeared, it was the time when former Speaker Crawford died. When he knew that the last key to unlock the White Legacy Magic Pulse Bomb Faith had been transferred to the body of former Speaker Crawford still met his own end. The only difference was that this time, because the 9 demon gates were out fighting, it was Hades marred Gear who personally ended the life of former Speaker Crawford. As former Speaker Crawford met his own tragic end, the White Legacy Magic Pulse Bomb Faith, which had been sealed under the continent, was also activated. Chapter 48. At this moment, in every city in the world, there are one or several magic pulse bombs phase, and everyone is attracted by the sudden change, and because of the strange and even hideous face of the White Legacy Magic Pulse Bomb phase, no one would think that these things would be a good thing. President End, did you see it? After casually killing the former Speaker Crawford, Hades marred. Gear looked at the white giant face sculpture that emerged outside the prison beast and smiled and muttered to himself, "The magic power of this world will disappear without a trace, and your seal will also be completely unsealed with the disappearance of the magic power. You will be able to regain your freedom soon. I think, President End, you can't wait to fulfill the long-cherished wish of my Lord Zeref. Kill, Zeref. Dragneel." However, in the next moment, an unprecedented palpitation suddenly emerged from the heart of Pluto marred Gear, a feeling that Pluto marred Gear had never felt before. At this moment, it seemed that everything stopped. Pluto marred Gear felt that the wind that had been blowing around him had stopped, the light that illuminated the entire world had stopped, and even the ubiquitous time and space had stopped at this moment. The whole world seemed to have lost its color at this moment. The world became quieter than ever at this moment, so quiet that it made people crazy, so quiet that Pluto marred Gear felt a panic that he had never felt before, and felt an emotion called panic. What's going on? What happened? Why did everything seem to become forbidden? What is the situation with this palpitation in my heart? Just when the world fell into silence and Pluto marred Gear was roaring wildly in his heart. A sword light that was extremely bright appeared in the sight of Pluto Mard. Gear, so dazzling. In fact, it was not just Pluto Mard Gear who had this feeling. At that moment just now, everyone in Magnolia was shocked to find that at some point, the world around them suddenly lost the color it was supposed to have, and the world became quieter than ever before. Then a sword light that was extremely bright appeared within everyone's range of perception. In this world without color, this sword light was so dazzling. Boom! There was a white silence between heaven and earth. In the absolutely quiet world, the roar was so clear. Then after an unknown amount of time, everyone felt that the grey world that had lost its color had regained its original color at some point. The fluttering wind continued to flutter as if nothing had happened, and the light irradiated the entire world as usual, and time passed as normal as before. However, the 2,000 white heritage magic pulse bombs faith that were spread all over the world were cut in half at some point, and fell to the ground after the world restored its original color, attracting the attention of everyone around. The extremely strong white heritage fists, which could be ignored even by the full power attack of Blue Pegasus magical critical attack boat Christina, was chopped into pieces like paper in front of the white sword light. And most importantly, the 2,000 white heritage magical pulse bomb fists scattered throughout the world were cut off together. Pluto Mard. Gear looked at the scene in disbelief, as if he had not recovered from the state just now. At the same time, Black Archbishop Keys, who had been using the body of former Speaker Crawford, also began to report to the host. Zero, Lord Pluto, through the control of the former Speaker's body, it seems that all the white heritage magical pulse bomb fists were destroyed in the white light just now. It seems that our plan to resurrect End President seems to have failed. Pluto Mard. Gear, who was originally in a daze, came back to his senses after hearing the report of Black Archbishop Keys, and then his whole body began to tremble wildly. This is not fear or anything else, it is just pure anger. Unprecedented anger is burning wildly in the heart of Hades Mard. Gear. Who is it? Who is it? Oh Mard. Gear have never felt such anger before. Without the white heritage magic pulse bomb FES, there is no way to unseal End President from the book. Our long-cherished wish will become extremely far away. Rage needs to be vented thoroughly. Let this city be the first place where Mard. Gear discovers anger. Leave no one behind. The unprecedented anger completely burned out the rationality of Hades Mard. Gear. Finally, these troublesome things have appeared. All solved and finished, next we should think about how to make money. At the same time, when Pluto Mard Gear was roaring wildly, Guyun stretched his body while looking at the broken and collapsed white heritage Fizi not far away. After the white heritage magic pulse bomb Fizi finally emerged from the ground, Guyun, who had been waiting for a long time, certainly would not be polite, and directly cut off all the Fizi with a sword. That's why the scene just now happened. Because of the absorption of magic spirit power before, Guyun has become more terrifying than before, and can achieve the effect of affecting time and space with his sword. Chapter 49. As for the fierce battle in Magnolia, Guyun was too lazy to care, even if the furious Pluto Mard Gear personally took part in it. Does a dance between ants need to care about how strong and tough the ants are? And compared to those things, I don't seem to have eaten enough just now. Although I don't have much money, I have helped so much. It shouldn't be a problem to treat me to a meal. Guyun touched his belly and returned to Yajima's restaurant while saying with a smile, I said, 710, the white legacy problem you have been worried about has been solved by me. As a thank you, as the former chairman, it's reasonable for you to treat me to a meal. The kind that can fill you up. I think the only one who can cause the terrible scene just now is you who can break the magic spirit power alive. After hearing Guyun's words, Yajima also said happily, young people nowadays are really amazing. Although you may be much older than me, who makes me look a little older. Of course there is no problem if you treat me to a meal, but you should eat as much as you can, and don't waste food. In short, while extremely fierce battles were taking place in other parts of Magnolia, Guyun was enjoying food in the center of the city, feeling the one-sided battle under the full force of Hades Mard Gear. Now Grey does not have the Ice Demon Slayer technique passed down by his father. Without the restraint of the Ice Demon Slayer technique, the real combat power of Mard Gear is fully unleashed. Even if he releases all his cursed power and transforms into the demon form in the Book of Zeref, Hades Mard Gear can still easily beat any member of Fairy Tail. Makarov, as the president of Fairy Tail, and 10 wizard saints, were the first to fight against Hades Mard Gear, but he was driven away after only 5 or 6 moves. After all, Makarov's strength has not changed much from 7 years ago, and the main force of Fairy Tail has already opened the second magic source with the help of Altair, a member of which is Sin. It can be said that Makarov and Fairy Tail are very close. The gap in strength between Tail's main elites is not particularly huge, and the second-generation President Precht, who didn't even open the Demon Eye 7 years ago, was able to crush Makarov in a few moves. There is no way around it. Makarov is very old, and there is nothing like the Demon Heart to provide strong vitality, so a serious decline in strength is not something that is unacceptable. After Makarov collapsed, he was completely defeated. After all, the furious Hades marred. Gear did not leave any chances, but simply vented continuously, and continued to completely crush Fairy Tail with absolute strength. From here, Guyun once again confirmed that if the villains in the Fairy Tail world are not arrogant, then the Fairy Tail world must be dominated by villains. However, most of Guyun's attention is on a crimson figure, that is, Erza. Scarlet, the Fairy Queen in the Fairy Tail Guild. The third purpose, Guyun actually cares about Erza. Scarlet, the Fairy Queen, not because Guyun is very fond of this character in the original work, and there are actually more complicated reasons. Let's not talk about the grudges and hatreds of the past for the time being. President. Are you okay? Leave the next thing to us. Erza saw Makarov was defeated by Hades Mard. Giran quickly got rid of her opponent, rushed to Makarov and stopped Hades Mard. Gear from moving forward. Looking at Hades Mard. Gear, who looked at her and Makarov with interest, Erza said angrily, I will definitely defeat this guy. Armor of the God of Teniki. Huge, even not inferior to Makarov's magic power, rose from Erza's body, and even the earth trembled slightly in front of Erza, who was exploding in all directions. 7 years ago, Erza was already a top-level strongman among S-class wizards. Now, with the help of Altair, he has opened the second magic source and has a more powerful and huge magic power. And the armor of the God of Teniki is Erza could only use the super armor after opening the second magic source, because the magic power required to wear this super armor is too huge, and it is rare to see someone who can control this armor in 10 years. Everyone who can control this armor will become an unparalleled sword that can cut through everything. Then she wore a crown like a princess, tied her hair with a headband, and her shoulder armor was a hexagonal 3-dimensional lion head. There was a ribbon behind her that was as long as her ankles, like a heavenly dress. Erza, holding a fanged Yenhuaji, appeared in everyone's sight. This is Erza's strongest and most gorgeous armor. Oh! Ants wearing beautiful clothes. After feeling the oppression coming from Erza, Pluto Mardgear said with a little interest, come on, struggle as much as you can, and only in this way can I be a little happy. It's not just struggling. After hearing what Pluto Mardgear said, Elsa roared loudly, I will knock you down completely. After that, she turned into a residual image and rushed towards Pluto Mardgear. Boom! A huge roar sounded. What? Erza looked at Pluto Mardgear, who blocked her fanged Yenhuaji with only one finger, and said in horror, how is this possible? Humph! Looking at Erza's horrified expression, Pluto Mardgear sneered, you are just a human being, just an ant, just struggle honestly. Don't be so arrogant here. Chapter 50. Hades Mardgear had no feelings of sympathy for women. After blocking Erza's full-strength attack, a white light with black dots appeared in his hand, turning into crescents and crashing into Erza's body. Erza! All the Fairy Tail Guild members around shouted loudly after seeing this scene, trying to remind Erza to dodge quickly, but how could she dodge such a close attack, and it was impossible for the companions around to rescue her. Just shouting and reminding was already a matter of time. Haha, it's useless. It's just a wizard guild that dares to go against us Tartaros. Kyoka looked at the demon Myra-Jane, who was confronting him, and sneered, although our Tartaros plan may have failed, as a guild that has interfered with us again and again, we Tartaros will not let it go. However, I think you have the potential to be a demon. I can make the decision for you to join us Tartaros to be transformed into a demon. You will have more powerful power and lifespan, which is no longer comparable to humans. As ALN, after seeing Myra-Jane transformed into a demon, Kyoka had to admit that she was a little attracted to Myra-Jane. After all, female demons have always been very rare. Although it is really good to play with Goddess of the Chill Moon Sela all the time, it is also a pleasant thing to change the taste occasionally. Just thinking about it, Kyoka's face inexplicably flushed. "We fairy tale will not be defeated so easily by you." After hearing Kyoka's persuasion, the demon Myra Jane said stubbornly, "We fairy tale will definitely win in the end." As the demon Mirajana's voice fell, a huge roar came again not far away, and a figure broke through several walls in a row and finally fell in a ruin. "It's useless to just say it with your mouth." After hearing the huge roar, Kyoka said confidently, "In front of our Lord Pluto, you fairy tale will not have any ability to resist. This is an absolute crushing." "What? How is this possible? Lord Pluto, how could he be?" Before he finished speaking, Kyoka's confident expression suddenly changed, and he quickly turned around to look at the ruins where the figure had just fallen. If he sensed correctly, the breath coming from the ruins was not the breath of Erza, but the breath of the banquet host Mardgear, which he was already familiar with. Kyoka quickly turned his head again to the place where Pluto Mardgear and Erza were just now, and then Kyoka's pupils suddenly shrank, and he said in horror, "Is it him? The Dragon Slayer? There is really no way." Guyun turned around slightly and looked at Erza, who was staring at him blankly behind him with a slightly complicated look, and said helplessly, "After all, they are too similar, both in appearance and personality." "You, who are you?" Erza looked at the white-haired young man standing in front of her and asked with a little confusion. For some reason, Erza felt a very reassuring and safe atmosphere from Guyun, a feeling that she had never felt even in the Fairy Tale Guild. In the Fairy Tale Guild, Erza felt more warmth, and a sense of security was something that she rarely felt. Maybe she would feel a little from Makarov occasionally. "As for me, I should be considered a familiar person. I have a good relationship with your mother." "Well, maybe it's better than you think." After hearing Erza's question, Guyun touched his head and chuckled, "If your mother knew that I was watching you being beaten by others, I would be embarrassed, so I came out to help." "My mother?" Erza became even more confused after hearing Guyun's words, but soon turned confusion into excitement, and asked excitedly, "Do you know my mother? If possible, can you take me to see my mother? I have a lot of things to say to my mother, and I have a lot of questions to ask her." This is a bit embarrassing. To be honest, Guyun doesn't want to see Erza's mother in the short term. Although Guyun still cares about Erza and Erza's mother Irene Belzarian, the incident in the past also makes Guyun feel uneasy. Therefore, Guyun still needs to think about this matter carefully. Fortunately, Hades Mardgear was very sensible and took the initiative to come over to help Guyun out. Hades Mardgear, who had been unlucky in everything, was already in a very violent state after experiencing a series of events just now. "Very good. You are the Dragon Slayer," Kyoka mentioned. Hades Mardgear climbed up from the ruins leisurely, patted the dust on his body and chuckled, "You are indeed proud enough to have the strength to crush the head of the Tartaro's 9 demon gates. There are almost no people who can do this among humans. Sometimes, it's quite pleasant to meet an ant that can resist a little bit." Looking at the indifferent Pluto Mardgear, Guyun's mouth twitched. In fact, when Guyun was reading the original book, he had a vague feeling that Pluto Mardgear was a star who would die if he didn't pretend to be cool. The anger in his heart was about to break through the sky, but he had to pretend to be cool here. "I say, don't speak nonsense so easily." Guyun looked at the elegant Pluto Mardgear and said with a smile, "This will only reveal your weakness." If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.